It's time for Iron Man versus Captain Marvel. Welcome to the Comicstorian Full Story channel, where we take old and new full stories from Comicstorian and put them over here to give you a better viewing experience. Civil War II was an event that started with the death of Hulk because of an inhuman who could see the future. This eventually led to the infamous debate of whether or not you can arrest someone for something they haven't done yet. Tony Stark and Carol Danvers butt heads, and well, you can watch to see what happens between them. This full story will be the entire core story of Civil War II, and then will lead into all of the tie-ins to show you what everyone else was doing during the event. I hope you enjoy.
Our tale begins with a man running through the forest, out of breath and scared of what he is becoming. He trips over a branch hitting the ground and he helps himself up, using the tree next to him, asking, why won't it stop? How can he stop it? And he hears a voice behind him say his name, Ulysses. He turns around to see Medusa, Crystal, and the rest of the Inhumans. We're the Inhumans, and we can help. This is a good thing. Cut to Manhattan. Our heroes, fallen, bloodied up, and ready to fight to their deaths. Amongst a big celestial in the middle of the city, the Avengers look up at it, ready to hold the ground solo, only to be surprised when their backup finally arrives. The rest of the Marvel Universe! The battle for New York against the Celestial begins with every hero arriving and holding off the drones, giving the magic users of the Marvel Universe the chance that they need. Doctor Strange leads the charge as they use their combined magics to hit him with everything, and everyone watches as he vanishes. They've won with minimal damage and loss of life. That's it. It's over. The world is saved. So Tony Stark tells everyone, party at my house! Drinks are on me. Everyone celebrates until the question finally comes up. How did the Inhumans know about this attack? How were they able to warn everyone? Medusa brings the key members of the heroes of the Marvel Universe into a room and introduces them to Ulysses. The poor kid is starstruck. I mean, there's Tony Stark and Steve Rogers right there. He's such a fan of every one of these heroes. Medusa explains that she knows the Inhumans keep to themselves a lot, and they keep their own secrets, but she wants them to be more involved and open with every one of their comrades. So, Ulysses explains that he can see the future. Tony right away asks for a little Jean Grey, the time-displaced younger version. She sits down with them and tries to create a private mind space for the two of them so that she can read his mind, and she quickly discovers that she can't read it. Ulysses thinks he did something wrong, and she tells him it's not him. His mind is a closed system. Ulysses looks at the heroes asking what that even means. And Captain Marvel steps forward, asking him if he'd like a job, or is he exclusively working with the Inhumans? She explains that her team, the Ultimates, could use his abilities, much to the dismay of Tony. Really, Carol? We meet one Inhuman who can read the future and it's a closed system and that's enough for you? It was good enough for you yesterday, Tony. Yesterday I didn't know anything about any of this. Would you have changed your mind? Steve Rogers steps forward. What's on your mind, Tony? Nope, not gonna have a morality debate with you, Steve. It never ends well. And Carol steps back in. Morality debate? How is this a moral issue? You have an Inhuman who can possibly see the future, but we have no idea what his deal is, nor do we know what probability ratio he's working with. If at the end of the day, everyone is alive, isn't that the right thing to do, Tony? Tony asks Ulysses his story, and he explains that he had a vision of the Celestial. He then ran into the woods where he was found by the Inhumans. He explained what his visions were, and everyone saved the day. Tony thinks about that. Okay, so we have a guy that comes out of the woods stating, oh my god, I have a vision of the Hulk making out with Ultron and a baby popped out and the baby was Hitler. Spider-Man raises his hand. I'd pay to see that movie. No doubt, but do we stop the Hulk before that happens? Do we lock him away before he does something we don't like? Yesterday was easy. Big cosmic monster doesn't invade. No harm, no foul. But what if the next one isn't easy? What if the next one is one of us? Depends, Carol tells him. And after a little more arguing, Tony leaves them to it. The night continued on and the Inhumans went back to their base, where Ulysses woke up in the middle of the night to another vision telling Medusa to get the Ultimates. A little more time passes and Mary Jane walks into Tony's lab to tell him it's Rhodey. Tony turns to ask if Rhodey is here, and she looks at him sadly. He's gone, Tony. He suits up and he rockets off to the S.H.I.E.L.D. headquarters, demanding to know where he is. He's brought into a room that is covered with black curtains to keep out the onlookers, and he sees a body with a sheet over him and the destroyed War Machine armor next to him. He walks out furious, demanding to talk to Carol to find out what happened. And he finds her, bedside to Jennifer Walters, the She-Hulk, with her eye bandaged up. He stops and he asks if She-Hulk is, but Carol tells him she's alive, but in critical condition. It was Thanos. Ulysses saw a vision that he would invade, so he brought the fight to him. In the fight, he shattered Rhodey's armor and he critically injured Jennifer. What was Rhodey even doing with you? He wasn't on your team, Carol. He was on campus and he volunteered. Tell me you at least got Thanos. He's in a cell down below. Mission accomplished. Tony storms out telling them that he's going to end this. No one is going to play God again. But before Carol can get up to go get him, Jennifer's hand reaches out and she tells her, fight for it. It's our future, not his. Then she passes out and the machines all flatline. Tony didn't go home, he went to end this. And to do that, he went right to the home of the Inhumans. He kidnapped Ulysses and he left a decoy so that no one would chase him. Medusa saw it as an act of war. Tony Stark declared war on the Inhumans. But before they could act on this, Carol showed up asking Medusa to stand down. Let her go to Tony's and get Ulysses back for them. Meanwhile, Tony took Ulysses to a lab demanding to know how his powers even worked. He began to run brain scans and ask the obvious questions. Are your powers biased? Are they altered by something racial, sexual, or political? Are you seeing things from a pure state, or are they altered by your upbringing? And Ulysses has no idea how his powers work. And then the alarms go off telling them that there's been a security breach. Tony walked over and untied Ulysses and he began to brush off the dust. All right, kid, act like you were having fun. And then the wall is blown out by Thor's hammer. Carol stands there. You kidnapped this kid from his home. Tony smiles and he puts his arm around Ulysses. Come on, it's not like I tortured him. He tortured me. A little bit. Carol tells Tony that she thinks he's having a nervous breakdown. Oh, you think I'm having one? Well, it's not a little nervous breakdown, it's a complete and total nervous breakdown. But as they begin to argue over Ulysses again, a vision comes across. One that Tony predicted, kind of. Ulysses sees the Hulk murdering the superheroes and standing over their bodies. And this time, everyone experienced it as well. Ulysses' powers were growing stronger. Carol didn't waste any time going to Bruce Banner's lab, where her and Tony both asked him if he had been doing any experiments that were gamma-related. Currently, Bruce Banner can't turn into the Hulk as Amadeus Cho took that power away from him. But that doesn't mean he's not doing research into why he's not able to turn, and into gamma radiation in general. He wants to know, and Tony sees that and asks Bruce to step aside, so that they can all have a little chat. Once they get outside, Banner sees every hero there and he asks, oh God, what did I do? That's the thing, Tony tells him. You haven't done anything. They explain that there is a young inhuman that experiences visions from the future, and Banner puts it together quickly. You have a moral dilemma. Wait for me to Hulk out or prevent it from happening. Tony explained that they're split as to what to do, and Carol tells Banner that they have proof that he's been experimenting on gamma radiation again. Hank steps forward because he hacked into Banner's systems, explaining, Banner has been experimenting on himself again. Banner, of course, gets mad. You broke into my home. You stole my work, and you accuse me of something I haven't done? And that's when an arrow comes out of nowhere, hitting Banner in the head, instantly killing him. All of the superheroes saw the arrow come out of the forest, and they rush over to see who shot it, to find out where it came from. And they find Clint Barton, Hawkeye there, with his wrists out ready to be arrested. Now he's in court as a trial is going on, and the judge is going to decide, did Clint actually murder Banner, save everyone, or did he do both? And after everyone explains what happens, Clint goes up to the stand to tell his side of the story. He explains that a little while ago, Banner came to him with a box, telling him that it had been a year since he had turned into the Hulk, a whole year. And he told Hawkeye that if he ever turned again, he wanted him to use this box to kill him. He explained that it had to be Clint Barton, because he's the only one of the people that Banner knew that could live with the act. Clint explained that as Banner was growing angry, he saw something in his eyes, something that showed him that Banner was about to turn. The judge has a difficult decision, because so far, the visions have all proven accurate. If they are accurate, then Hawkeye saved all of the superheroes and in turn saved the world. But if they're false, if there's even a hint that Hawkeye acted prematurely, he committed murder. Since the death of Bruce Banner, Carol has been using the Inhumans' visions to accurately prevent over a dozen potential incidents around the world. The judge asks Carol, have any of them been false? Well, no, not really, she explains. As Tony sits there waiting for the verdict to be handed out, he looks back at the readings from Ulysses and he realizes something is horribly wrong. Carol went to go see Jennifer Walters as she ended up pulling through and she told her what happened, that Clint Barton killed her cousin Bruce. She sits up in bed wanting to know what was the result. What did the judge deem? Carol can't even get the words out as her eyes begin to well up with tears, and anger begins to glow in Jennifer's eyes as she demands to know the answer. Barton was acquitted. Hawkeye walks. While this is going on, Carol tackles a woman as she was leaving a building, and they take her briefcase away from her by force, causing the first misinterpretation of Ulysses' visions. She saw that woman as a Hydra agent, and in that briefcase was a bomb. But, in actuality, the briefcase was completely empty. Meanwhile, Tony doesn't know what to do with his information, so he decides to call the heads of the Marvel Universe to explain. Ulysses takes everything in from the entire world, all of the energies and the thoughts. He creates a possible future from those visions. He's basically an algorithm that takes all of the data and says what could happen. But he's not seeing the future because it isn't there. He's using math and it's all guesswork. So I've decided to call all of you together And that's when we see that he's talking to Medusa, Steve Rogers, Carol Danvers, Hank McCoy, Black Bolt, and T'Challa. And I'm going to listen to Steve Rogers, because whenever there's a major divide between us, it never ends well. Steve gets up and asks Carol, "What do you think?" She questions it, but Hank says he checked all of the data, it's accurate. So Carol says, "If someone were to come over to you and tell you that a man in the corner has a gun and he's going to shoot everyone, do you check it or ignore it?" Tony questions that though. 80%? 60%? What? What percentage of it being true does it have to be for you to act on it? Tony, what if I told you those visions were only 10% correct? You're stating that if there's a 10% chance that Thanos is going to get his hands on a cosmic cube, would I stop him? That's more than enough. And Rhodey would agree. Well, I'd ask him, but... Captain Marvel tells Tony to back off and salutes Captain America before flying through the ceiling and into the skies. Tony stands there with everyone. I have to go public with this. Meanwhile, Carol goes to the woman that they arrested earlier and begins to grill her. Ulysses saw her working with Hydra. Carol can't have this one being the wrong one. The first one to finally prove Tony's research correct. But before she can figure the whole thing out, Nightcrawler teleports in, grabbing the woman and teleporting out. Carol takes her team and she walks out to the landing area of the helicarrier where she sees Tony standing with his side. Steve Rogers, Kate Bishop, Miss Marvel, the X-Men, Thor, Spider-Man, Doctor Strange, and Vision, just to name a few. Carol looks at him. "Tony Stark, you're under arrest." And standing with her are the Inhumans, Magic, Blue Marvel, S.H.I.E.L.D., and some other X-Men to name a few. Good luck with that, Carol. When the public sees what you've been up to, you're going to have your hands full. What I've been up to, you just broke into a S.H.I.E.L.D. facility. No matter, you're a bit outpowered right now, Carol. Stand down. Carol crosses her arms as the Guardians of the Galaxy jump in to join the fight. The heroes go to war with magic, plasma, blasters, and guns going off all over the place. Carol flies into the sky, blasting Tony's armor in the shoulder, but he uses his other arm to tear into her stomach, throwing her back. Meanwhile, Doctor Strange entangles Storm, wrapping her up tight, but she uses lightning to throw him back and freeze him. Blue Marvel then comes out, cracking Luke Cage across the face, only to have Nova fire into Blue Marvel's face, taking him out of the fight. Except, it didn't actually damage Blue Marvel. So Nova launches into the atmosphere, yelling, "Crap, you didn't get burned!" Sam Wilson and Magic prepare to fight, but she just teleports him across the United States. While Rocket is shooting at everyone, Spider-Man kicks him out of the fight, and then Venom tackles him, telling him, "You are not Spider-Man." Star-Lord stands in front of Steve Rogers. "Ah, crap, I get the one with the shield? I don't even know why you're here, Quill. I was wondering that myself." Star-Lord looks around. "Who's that voice?" "It's me, Tony Stark. I hacked into your headset." "I didn't even know it could be hacked into. We're here to help a friend." "She said that you went off the rails and from the schoolyard ganging up crap that you just pulled? I can see that. I thought we were friends, Quill." "Yeah, well, I'm better friends with her." But as they're discussing the merits of their friendship, Vision gets electrocuted and is so pissed that he blasts at the enemy, shooting through them because they can phase out, taking out the Guardian spaceship. Rocket is about to cry, but Black Panther grabs Tony Stark and holds him down while Carol soars in, grabbing him by the head and slamming him down. She then backhands him across the jaw, and everyone stops as a vision is displayed by Ulysses, one in which Miles Morales is shown over the dead body of Steve Rogers. Miles falls to his knees in shock. He lifts his mask up, allowing himself to breathe, and tears begin to run down his face. Why would he do that? What's gonna lead to him killing Steve Rogers? Why would he murder one of his idols? And Carol steps forward. "Kid, I'm sorry, but you're under arrest." In order to understand that, we need to have a look at what's been happening to Steve Rogers. Recently, he lost his super soldier serum and it turned him old and gray. But in the event Avengers Standoff, a cosmic cube had been changed into a child, and that child, Kobik, decided to turn him back to normal, into the classic Captain America. Except there was one thing that happened that no one knew about. Kobik was working for the Red Skull, and she didn't bring back classic Captain America. She altered his history in its entirety. Steve had now been raised by Hydra with the intention of becoming the ultimate secret agent, because Steve Rogers now worked for Red Skull. It all began at the night of the party where they were celebrating the destruction of the Celestial. Steve had planned to have the entire tower destroyed. He was going to kill as many heroes as he could, but his plan changed that night because he learnt of the inhuman Ulysses, and he began to realize that if Ulysses can see the future, then he would be able to, in fact, foresee and stop many of Steve's plans. The doctor he was working with insisted that they kill Ulysses, and while Steve disagreed at first, he didn't see any other options. So that night he broke into the Inhumans base with the intention of ending Ulysses' life. Except that was the same night that Tony Stark broke in, and once again, his plans were shot. So he had another idea. He sent a letter to Bruce Banner, one that contained research on gamma radiation, the supposed cure for the Hulks. And thus, Ulysses had a vision where Banner was doing research on gamma radiation, and he was going to kill everyone, drawing all of the heroes to his home, and then Bruce Banner was killed by Clint Barton. The plan was simple: stage the visions and redirect everyone away from him, and that would decrease the possibility that Ulysses would receive a vision about him. It was working just fine, until a vision of Miles Morales killing Steve Rogers was sent out to everyone. Luckily, no one knows Steve's true intentions, do they? Or do they know that he's been altering the visions and steering them away? But what's gonna happen now? We go back to the battlefield where everyone has just seen the vision, and Tony looks at Carol. I told you this would happen. Did I not tell you? You're turning on children now. I'm not turning on him, Tony. Carol, this kid, in the short time that he's been an Avenger, has done nothing but good. This isn't Banner. There is no gray area here. I'm not turning on him. I want him to come with us to ensure that this doesn't happen, Tony. The arguing continues, with no one really knowing what to do, but in the end, Tony decides to let Miles decide for himself. Steve steps forward. May I? He walks over to Miles and he takes a knee in front of him. Hi. Hi. Why did you pull your mask up? I couldn't breathe. Put it back. The mask represents something. It represents who you are. You're Spider-Man, and that means something to people. It means a lot. I would never do what that vision showed. I would never do that. I know, son. I don't know what to do now. What do you want to do? I want to go home. Then do that. We'll figure out the rest later. Carol yells at the captain. This isn't your call. He has a right to go home, Carol. But we can keep him safe. We can prevent this. We can make sure it doesn't happen. He didn't do anything wrong. Just like Bruce, just like Rhodey. Carol is speechless. Thor walks over, taking Miles by the arm, and takes off to return him back home. Maria Hill then takes that as a chance to step forward and tell everyone that they're under arrest for the destruction that they've caused in the Capitol. But everyone begins to teleport out, and then Medusa warps the Inhumans home, leaving Carol alone. As they soar through the skies, Miles asks Thor to leave him. He just wants to be left alone, and she leaves him on a roof, understanding. He falls to his knees and he takes his mask off. Tears begin to roll down his face as the vision is still fresh in his mind, and he screams out! Things are rocky across the board. The Inhumans have left to protect Ulysses. The Guardians are bunking with Carol since their ship is gone, and Tony's team is beginning to divide, with people wanting no part of this any longer. People are switching sides, like Black Panther going over to Tony's side as things are heating up and the predictions are becoming less likely to become accurate. But after long debates on their next actions, Tony turns to Steve, telling him, "What happens next is up to you and Spider-Man." Carol, on the other hand, is sitting on a roof of one of the buildings looking over New York. How could it come to this? How could her plans fall apart so fast? Ulysses was supposed to be the answer to everything, but now the vision shows one of her friends dead by a hero's hands. Maria Hill walks out with Peter Quill, Storm, and Jean Grey to let Carol know that they found Spider-Man. He's exactly where the vision said that he would be, on the steps in the Capitol, waiting. Ulysses is now standing at the edge of New Attilan, the home of the Inhumans, in a trance. No one knows what's going on, but Ulysses has actually traveled somewhere. Into the future, maybe into the past, or maybe he's in a different universe. He stumbles and he falls down a cliffside, landing in front of a big hulking green guy, and he looks at him and declares, "Meat." He raises his hands to crush Ulysses, but suddenly a man in a trench coat and hat leaps onto his back, stabbing him and tearing him in two. The man in the hat walks back to his horse, and Ulysses asks him, "Are you Wolverine?" Wolverine doesn't answer, so Ulysses asks him, "What year is this?" And Wolverine stops. "Are you okay, kid?" I don't think I'm supposed to be here." "What year do you think it is, kid?" "I don't know. There's no way to tell." "What are you?" "I'm an Inhuman." "Guess you missed the last bus. The Inhumans left the planet back when the world still looked like the world." "They did? Where are we?" "Looks like Jersey." "What happened?" "Tony Stark happened." "What do you mean by that? What happened here?" But then Ulysses starts to fall back into his own time and place, and he yells out, "Tell me what Tony Stark did!" "Everyone knows what he did. He pushed her too far." "Who's her? Who's her?" Ulysses says as he warps back to the present day. Meanwhile, word gets back to S.H.I.E.L.D. that Miles is now on the steps of the Capitol. Carol tells Maria to relay to the local PD that they need to stand down. She'll handle this one herself. As the police leave the area, Miles looks out and he sees Steve Rogers standing there. Back in New Attilan, Ulysses turns to Medusa and tells her to call Carol. They have to stop the fighting. They can do this. Back at the Capitol, Carol jumps out of the helicarrier to fly over to the Capitol, while Steve walks up to Miles. "Why are you here?" "Same reason you're here, to prove it doesn't happen." "Exactly right. Thank you for believing in me." Carol then arrives, hovering above them. "What do you expect me to do when you arrived here like this?" "I don't know, maybe leave me alone like the cops did?" "The cops left because I told them to. Please tell the kid I'm not Satan, Cap." "She's not Satan." "Thank you. Now can you please come with me so that we can get you somewhere safe?" She reaches her hand out, and a shield forms around Miles. Carol turns back. "Tony Stark, be a man and face me!" I wasn't hiding. I was giving you one last chance and that was it. And then out of nowhere, Tony rockets in with Hulkbuster armor. He hits the ground with everything and Carol catches the punch, throwing him back into the sky. He launches a missile at her, but she dodges while Captain America ducks behind his shield, protecting him from the explosion. The two Titans launch into the air and begin to throw everything at each other while Miles is yelling to let him out of this bubble. Back and forth they go until Carol has had enough and she uses everything to punch through Tony Stark's chest. Steve Rogers and Miles both look up at that hit, and even S.H.I.E.L.D. is monitoring the situation. Blue Marvel tells Maria Hill that she needs to send them in. They can stop this, but she tells him Carol said she has everything under control. It needs to be one-on-one, otherwise we'll have every superhero slugging it out on the steps of the Capitol. That's when Medusa calls her up, telling her Carol has to stop. She has to stop now. Tony and Carol go back and forth, with Tony's armor falling apart. I told you that if you interfered again, I wouldn't be holding back. You also said that you wouldn't arrest a kid for something he didn't do. And then Tony fires a missile at Carol, which she dodges, but Steve gets hit by the full blast of them. The readings come back that Steve is alive, but he's unconscious, and Tony goes back to fighting Carol while Miles is punching the bubble, trying to get out. Meanwhile, back in New Attilan, Medusa tells the Inhumans Hill hung up on her, so the decision is made to get Ulysses himself to the Capitol to try and stop Carol. Back at the battlefield, Carol winds up with another super-powered punch, shattering pieces of Tony's arm off as he catches it. And that's it. Maria Hill tells all of the superheroes to get in there and put an end to this. They all land in front of Miles to see him in the bubble, and the first thing that they need to do is get him out. While this is going on, Carol and Tony continue to throw everything at each other. Slight problem though. Tony's armor is failing, and his AI informs him of that. Everyone watches as Carol hits Tony in the head with everything, and as the suit falls to the ground, she begins to try and pry the mask off. Seeing that failing, she knees the helmet with everything, and then she lands on top of him, ready to throw a final punch, ready to end this right here. But before anyone can stop her, she hits him. She hits Tony with everything, completely shattering the suit. As he falls to the ground from the explosion, everyone sees a white light, and then Ulysses is showing everyone another vision. He's showing them all of the visions. He's showing every possible future to everyone. He shows a world where the monsters are fighting the monsters led by Karnak. One where the X-Men and the Sentinels are working together with only Nova to stop them. Another time and place where Spider-Man killed Captain America and the Capitol is falling. A future where the Inhumans are fighting for their lives against a robot invasion. And yet another one where the Sentinels have won against the X-Men. A world where only Carol lives up to stand against Ultron is shown. And finally a future where Odin's son is back as Thor and he's fighting Loki. Everyone sees all of these possibilities and potential futures. And a voice tells Ulysses, "You are one of us now." Everyone looks up to see Eternity standing there in a white light. And he tells him, "You have shown the Earth all that you can. You are now a part of the greater universe. There is more than just the Earth if you choose to join us." Ulysses smiles, finally knowing his true purpose and where he's supposed to be. And he vanishes, telling everyone, "Thank you." Everyone then appears back at the steps of the Capitol, with Miles holding someone again. But this time, he isn't holding Steve Rogers. He's holding a critically injured Tony Stark. Sometime later, Hank explained that Ulysses evolved into something beyond human. And then Carol and him look down at Tony Stark in a device that is meant to keep him alive. Hank says that he can't operate or work on Tony because he's been experimenting with his own body for years. And Hank is worried what would happen if he even took blood. While they have no way to really save him, whatever Tony did to himself is keeping him alive. And it kept Carol from becoming the woman that killed Tony Stark. Hank tells her, "You know he wasn't fighting you, right? He trusted you. You popped open a dangerous door, Carol, and deep down, maybe very deep down, he knew that you could be trusted. You could have saved millions with it, but he was worried about who would come after you. He knew once you made profiling a thing, made it into the norm, how long would it take before someone else would use it for something less noble? He knew what would come next. He was a futurist to the end." And with that, they sealed Tony up in the device keeping him alive. Carol went to see the man in the White House, where she explained that the superhero community is pretty divided now. Some are overwhelmed, some are just trying to hang on. Some think that they know what to do while others are lost. Others are doubting themselves, some wounds will never heal, and some have been inspired to do something new. The man in the White House tells her, "The winner gets the prize. What project of yours would you like funded?" And she tells him she has a few ideas. But we aren't done just yet. If Steve Rogers had manipulated the entire event by setting up the banner thing and helping the situation escalate, what did he think of the vision of him dying at the hands of Miles? Why would he go to the Capitol steps when Miles was there? You see, following that, he returned to his base where the doctor that he had been helping told him that he needed to kill that boy. Otherwise, he was going to die. Steve told him that the boy would be protected. And to top it off, he's going with Stark and everyone to the Capitol. The doctor was really confused. Why would you go to your own death? And Steve explained, While everyone was looking at Spider-Man holding my dead body, I did what I was trained to do. I looked at everything. And what I saw wasn't just my death, but it was my death on the day that Hydra was finally victorious. I won't die in those steps tomorrow. It will come sometime later, and when it does, it'll be worth it. New York City was under attack from a celestial alien. The mercenaries for money were watching from on top of a building, but you probably don't know who the heck these guys are. Massacre, Terror, Stingray, Fool Killer, Solo, and Slapstick have been the guys helping Deadpool maintain his mercenary rep while he was working with the Avengers. They are the mercenaries for hire, and they're basically Deadpool's other team. So while all of New York is under attack from the Celestial, Deadpool, his wife, and the mercenaries for money all head out to save the city, and they start by putting out the fires and saving the civilians. They use everything from guns to teleporters to flying aids, and ultimately, they save everyone that they can. And in the end, it's not the superheroes that defeated the Celestial in a fistfight. Instead, the powers of Ulysses gave the magical individuals of the planet enough time to come together and send the Celestial home. To celebrate their new tool, the superheroes all went to a party at the Avengers Tower. Everyone, except the mercenaries for money. They weren't too happy about getting the snuff from Deadpool again either. They all headed back to the theater that Deadpool was keeping as his base of operations, fed up with everything that was going on. Deadpool doesn't pay them on time. He takes all of the credit, and now he gets to go to the parties without them. Deadpool, meanwhile, meets up with Ulysses, and he doesn't believe in Ulysses' powers. No one can predict what Deadpool is going to do. He then tips his drink up to the circling news helicopter as the Fact Network reports that Deadpool has once again helped save the day with his hirelings. And Adsit, one of the friends of Deadpool, tells the Mercs that maybe they should be making better decisions. As a matter of fact, so should he. Deadpool hasn't paid him either, and because of that, he's going back to S.H.I.E.L.D. With no other real options, the Mercs for money begin digging through Deadpool's paperwork trying to find their contracts so that they can tear them up and then go off to do their own thing, which leads to a rather interesting discovery. Deadpool has been skimming their paychecks off of the top, which is why they haven't received any money for the last few months. Meanwhile, Deadpool has decided to see if Ulysses can actually see the future, and he's decided that he needs to have a chat with him. So he heads over to the base of the Ultimates where they're keeping him at this time. He walks into the room that Ulysses is in and he puts a gun to his head, telling him that if you can really see the future, then you're really bad at it. But the fact is, Ulysses has had a lot of people testing him recently, and he knows that Deadpool's not really going to kill him. So he just asks him, "Why are you here?" He explains that he wanted to get some answers about his daughter Ellie. He needs to know if she's a... You know what? Never mind. Ulysses explains that he can't actually pinpoint the future, he just gets visions. And then he looks at the monitors and he asks if Deadpool has any business in New Jersey. He points to the screen showing the mercenaries for hire breaking into a bank, one where Deadpool is keeping his stash. So after a battle against Black Panther on his way out the door and trying to use the toilet in the middle of the fight, Deadpool begins to make his way to New Jersey. Over at the bank's vault, the Mercs begin breaking down the door and they try walking in. They start digging around his safe box and they find their contracts, along with the footage of the incident at Washington, D.C., the one that made Deadpool famous to begin with. But Solo turns to Stingray. "You know that wasn't Deadpool, right?" Everyone turns to Solo shocked. But that's when Deadpool throws a bomb into the vault. He walks in with the button. "Thanks for coming to the team meeting, but I'm afraid I'm gonna have to let you all go," into pink fine mist. That's when another of the Mercs jumps Deadpool, pushing him into the vault so that they can all beat him up. But as he does that, he accidentally closes the vault, locking them all inside together. With nothing else to do, Solo asks if they want to hear the story of how he dressed up as Deadpool and saved Washington, D.C. Deadpool sits down and tells him, "So this is the issue where we all have a flashback." Solo explains that no one was hiring washed-up James Bourne anymore, so he took on a new identity, Deadpool's. He got a basic assassination job, but he got an odd feeling about it. One that got worse as the dignitary's motorcade arrived. That's when he realized that he had been set up to take the fall for killing a dignitary. Well, Deadpool had been set up. He jumped down saving the man and he ran him into a parking garage with the shooter opening fire on the two of them. He then stole a dog washing van and he began to flee, but the Secret Service agents began to chase him and they opened fire on the van. As Solo teleported into their car, they simply told him, "Boop." So he teleported between all of their cars, knocking out each of the agents working against them, until eventually he dropped each of the booping Secret Service agents and got the dignitary to the White House. The world saw Deadpool as a hero, even if he tried to tell them that his name was actually Solo. That's when Deadpool stands up telling his guys, "It's obvious, that was Madcap. He practically signed off on it by having them say boop." So he hits Solo, telling him, "Why didn't you tell me that part? You said it was a random telepathic attack." Because even though Madcap had turned himself into dust, he's not gone, and he still has a bone to pick with Wade. For those of you guys who don't know who Madcap is, our first 2 videos of Deadpool's adventures and the all-new, all-different Marvel explain that Madcap is trying to take down Wade because of their history together. Go check out those videos in the Deadpool playlist. The next day, the guards open the vault to find everyone punching it out. That's when the pin on a grenade hits Solo in the head, and he runs for it with everyone else not wanting to be killed. Deadpool stands up holding the grenade, telling the guards to calm down. He did it to scatter everyone. And then the guards inform him that the flashbang grenade doesn't have a pin in it either. Boom! It goes off and Deadpool exclaims, "I'm blind!" He stumbles out, "Holy shit, here comes Swear Devil!" Slapstick holds his hammer up high. "Nice to meet you, Swear Devil. I'm Slapstick, one of the guys that you've been cheating for months." He hits Deadpool in the stomach so hard that Deadpool throws up in his own mask, and then he throws his nasty mask over at Fool Killer. "You guys are gonna keep fighting me? Can't you see that I'm disabled?" Fool Killer proceeds to kick him in the spine. "It's differently abled, you piece of." Meanwhile, Stingray and Solo burn the contracts and the police arrive. The police begin to open fire, so Terra grabs Deadpool and holds him up like a shield, and then throws him towards the cop car's windshield. Deadpool then grabs a shotgun and he begins to blast away at the mercs. A few minutes later, S.H.I.E.L.D. arrives handcuffing everyone, and Preston wants to know, what was he thinking? She looks down at Deadpool and asks him, "How long do you think you're going to be an Avenger for? Are you looking ahead in our story, Preston? Do better, Wade. See you at Sunday's dinner." Realizing how much hot water the whole group is in, Wade uses his Avengers credit to vouch that it was, in fact, Kang the Conqueror. He was teleporting into that bank, so Deadpool and his team had to stop him. They walk outside and everyone wants to know what Deadpool was thinking. Every dime that they made went to fund Steve Rogers' Unity Squad, the Avengers team that Deadpool is working on. "Let me explain your severance packages. Don't any of you ever cross me again. If we're on the same job, I will kill you on sight." They all end up on the same train trying to leave at the same time, because it's really the only way out of New Jersey. But eventually, Deadpool makes his way back to Preston's house, where his daughter is being kept. Ellie answers the door calling him Wade, to which he asks, isn't the normal nomenclature his dadness or dadarino? She informs him that her therapist doesn't think that she should be considering Wade a father figure. Preston doesn't want to hear it either. Deadpool is getting out of control, and she doesn't want that around her house, so she throws him out. With his team disbanded and his daughter being held back from him, he decides to go visit his wife, Shikla. He enters the underworld and walks into their bedroom, where he takes off his clothing and he climbs into bed, only to find her in bed with a werewolf. He gets up, grabs a shotgun, and then takes off that werewolf's head. "What was that, Shikla? I couldn't hear you over my big honkin' murder gun." Shikla gets up telling Deadpool that he knew about this, her many visitors that enter her bed chamber, and Deadpool knew what he was getting into when he married her. Deadpool turns to her and tells her, "So did you. I fight and I fight and I fight and I screw up. It's all I know how to do. So are we gonna do this or not?" Shikla smiles. "Oh yes," and she hurls a spear through his chest. Then she begins to charge at him. "I don't mind you ruining your happiness, but leave mine alone." She tears him through a wall and into the streets of the underworld. She then grabs him by the ankle and begins to fling him around. "You shouldn't have made me angry, Wade. And you shouldn't have married the first idiot that you saw stepping out of a coffin." She bounces him back into the subway system where a train is headed towards him, so he leaps through the window. Shikla isn't done though, as she follows him onto the train and begins to kick him around some more. And then she bounces him out of the subway. And he asks if they can be done now. He'll go get a dog so that she can shoot its head off in his bed. She walks up top and sticks her foot into his throat. "Fine, that was the most fun that we've had in a while. Why don't you come back to bed?" "The one that I just shot the werewolf in? Nah, I'm good." "Very well, husband. Never the end." And she walks away. He gets up and he starts to walk down the sidewalks trying to sort all of this out. He wants to protect Ellie and Preston, and he wants to be close to them, but the longer that Madcap roams free, the worse the end is going to be. Eventually, he made it back to the theater, or what's left of it ever since Ultron destroyed it when he attacked the Unity Squad. After talking to Rogue, he walked up to the roof to go over what a cluster that his life has become, because he needs to fix this somehow. In the S.H.I.E.L.D. helicarrier, our story begins with Ulysses receiving a vision that is going to change things. He sees Old Man Logan holding the dead body of Gabby. But forget that right now, because the old man just woke up to Jonathan, Gabby's pet Wolverine, looking at him, and Gabby apologizing. He tries to sit up only to find himself tied down, demanding to know what's going on, and then wondering why he can hear whales. Gabby explains that Laura thought he might wake up confused, so she was playing a tape of whales to try and calm him down. "I'm Gabby. I was cloned from Laura, who was cloned from you, so you're kind of like my interdimensional dystopian future grandfather." Laura then walks out of the other room asking how he feels, and the old man tells her like it was hit in the gut by a giant beast. and Gabby wants to know if he was soothed by the whale song. Sure. But as they go to let the old man up, they hear footsteps coming to the door. Logan whips out his claws and Laura tells him to stop. This is her home. 2 burglars break into the window and they see Laura, Gabby, and Logan all there. Gabby presses her hands together. Oh my God, are you burglars? And you broke into here? Both Laura and Logan begin to snicker, and then everyone begins to burst out laughing. This, of course, irritates our burglars as they demand to know what's funny, and Logan thanks them for the laugh. So they pull out a gun, pointing it at him, asking, "Is this funny?" Laura tells them to take this one chance and leave right now. But Jonathan runs forward, protecting his owners, and a gunshot goes off, hitting him in the stomach. Both Laura and Logan pop their claws, but it's Gabby who leaps in screaming. Laura then cuts the gun of the other man to pieces, throwing him into a wall, and Logan gets his claws to the man's throat. But Laura asked him not to kill, so Logan headbutts him. Gabby runs over to Jonathan, and they all discover that he was only grazed. So Logan and Gabby take him to the other room to patch him up. That's when Logan tells her he knows that Gabby is hiding something. He knew her in his timeline. He looks her right in the eyes and he asks her, "Do you plan to hurt Laura?" And Gabby snaps, "No!" "You swear?" "I swear." "Okay. Before, when you did that flying knee to the kid's face?" "Yeah." That's the kind of thing an interdimensional dystopian grandpa might be proud of. Logan walks back into the kitchen and he pops the top off of a grape juice with his claws, and he has a seat next to Laura. "You've been here before, right? When you got here, you said that this is where you raised me. I knew that you were here, not in this apartment, but in this world. You were avoiding me? I screwed up so much. I hurt almost everyone but you. There wasn't one damn thing I regretted about you, kid. You were one of the only things I got right. But we need to talk about Gabby. No, this isn't your past. I don't care about destiny. I don't care about what happened in your world. She gets to live her own life and ours." Logan smiles. "It's good to see you tell me off again, kid." The burglars begin to wake up, so Laura decides to call up Maria Hill of S.H.I.E.L.D. and have them hauled off. But Hill stops her. "Laura, we have a team en route." Logan perks up because he can hear the sound of combat boots moving up the stairs. "Listen carefully, Laura. I need you to stay calm. This isn't about you, it's about him. He's going to kill Gabby." Outside, Laura can see Captain America waiting to bring Logan in. Cap leaps up to the window and he walks in, and Gabby comes running out of the room and sees him, saluting him right away. "Oh my gosh, it's Captain freaking America." He explains to the group that Ulysses, the inhuman who can see the future, saw Logan killing a lot of people, and someone close to him. Logan eyeballs him. "What do you think, Steve?" "I think you should come with me until we feel the danger has passed." Laura gets in the way. "Someone saw something in his head and you want to punish people for it?" "It's not a punishment, Laura. He'll have everything that he could ever want, except his freedom." Everyone stands there eyeballing each other, and Gabby stamps her foot down. This is so tense! Then, over the radio in his ear, the soldiers report that Cap can stand aside so they can take the hostile out. Laura and Logan look at him. "You know we have very good hearing, right? I wasn't feeling hostile until now. Whatever it is, isn't worth it. I'll get my stuff." And Logan walks into the other room, but the radio goes off again. "Captain, he was in Fing Fang Foom's stomach yesterday. He doesn't have any stuff." Laura stands in Cap's way, so Steve slams her into a wall. The door gets kicked in and the soldiers open fire, while Laura leaps over Steve's shoulders and kicks the tranks away. Meanwhile, in the room without a window, Gabby explains that she'll protect Logan and pulls out 2 jetpacks. That explains that since there's no window, they have a little bit of a problem. "Leave it to me, kid," he says, smiling, and he pulls out his claws. While Laura and Captain America fight it out, the old man and Gabby start tearing down the walls, running through the other apartments until they make it to a window and they jump out. Captain America jumps out after them and prepares to throw his shield, but that's when a trank dart hits him in the back, and Laura is the one that took the shot. Shield isn't done though, as they use the helicarrier to blast Logan out of the sky, right next to Gabby. He crash lands into a fountain and he pops his claws, ready to go, growling. The guards all see it. "Oh shit, fire!" And they all begin to pump him full of tranquilizer. He begins tearing through them, burying his claws into their guts and screaming out. Gabby flies overhead seeing him and calling out to him, telling him to stop. Laura and Captain America both arrive at that moment, and Cap tells everyone to stand down as Gabby lands in front of Logan. Laura sees what's going on and she yells for Gabby to get back. She warns her that Logan has become feral, but she tells him it's going to be okay. Logan looks at her sad and confused, and he stabs her in the gut. "You took her from me," he shouts. As Gabby hits the ground, he jumps over to Captain America, but Steve smacks him away with the shield, throwing Logan off of him. Laura runs over, unable to say anything except "No, no, no, no!" and Captain America calls out for the medic. In the confusion, Logan drops down into the sewers, and Laura tells him that she's going after him. Captain America tells her that he'll go with her, but she says no. "You've done enough. Do you think he would have lashed out like that if you didn't pump him full of tranquilizers? Do you honestly think this prediction would have come true if you didn't attack him?" Laura then looks at Gabby, dead in her arms. "I told her. I said I wouldn't leave her. Keep her safe." and Laura hands Gabby's body over to Captain America before jumping into the sewers. But as she finds him, he turns growling at her. What are you? What did they do to you? You're not Logan, you're just some twisted perversion with his face, and he jumps at her. Laura throws his claws aside and lunges at him herself, but he dodges away easily, so she leaps over his back. As she's on his back, he lifts up, throwing her down, and they both get up, lunging at each other. Meanwhile, back on the surface, Captain America sadly places a sheet over Gabby's body, and she sits up, and she demands to know where Logan is. The medic tells her in the sewers, so she makes a break for it. Back in the sewers, Logan swings and Laura dodges until finally she gets a slash in across his gut. Blood begins to pour out of him, and he finally begins to come to his senses. And he sees Laura coming in, preparing to stab him, so he shouts, "Wait!" And she tells him no. That's when Gabby grabs her hand. She turns and sees Gabby, and she's shocked. So Gabby shows her a claw, showing her that she now has Laura's powers. She's so sorry that she didn't tell Laura sooner. She turns back to Logan asking, "Did you know? Did she have powers in your world?" "No, I didn't know for sure." "You killed her, didn't you? In your world?" "No. You killed each other. You don't understand. She took you away. She's worse than both of us. It wasn't her. It's not her future. But I can see death on you. Tell me, was there anyone in your world who didn't die for knowing you? Stay away from her, and stay away from us." Laura and Gabby turn to leave, and Gabby turns back apologizing for what happened. Logan growls at her. "You hurt her and I'll come for you." "Fair enough. You bring a single ounce of pain into that perfect woman's life, and I'll put you down like a rabid dog. Bye." They both crawl back out where Captain America and S.H.I.E.L.D. are waiting. Captain America tries to explain the Civil War II situation to Laura, but she doesn't want to hear it. As far as she's concerned, she's not in whatever is happening. And that is why Laura isn't involved in Civil War II. In 1926, a woman is being pulled around the streets of New York by her husband. She asks him to stop, but he's also drunk and begins to ask her if she's laughing at him. Confused, she asks what is he talking about, and he says, "I saw the way you were looking at your deadbeat no-job husband." She asks him not to do this in front of their son, and he tells her, "This is good. Our boy can see a real man." And she asks, "Have you seen a real man lately?" So he backhands her, until a woman in a red scarf walks over telling Joseph that he should help that woman up. He tells her to mind her own business, and he swings at her, so she catches his fist and punches him back. As she helps the woman up, she introduces herself. "I'm Sinclair Elisa, and you're Sarah Rogers, right?" She looks at the boy, asking, "Who is that brave soul?" Back in the current day, Steve Rogers, aka the original Captain America, comes crashing through a window. He begins fighting with the individuals on the train, and Sharon Carter calls him up on the comms. "Steve, it's Sharon. You know, I thought I recognized that voice. Do you see the bomb?" "I see the bomb," Steve says, looking through the window at the suicide bomber, a poor man that was down on his luck when the Red Skull convinced him to do this. He tells her that he's almost done on the train and that he can double back to stop the Hydra agents at the staging area. But Sharon smirks. "Steve, we talked about this. I remember arguing. You were no longer alone in the field. You have a team and they went back for you. Remember Jack Flag and Free Spirit? Back at the staging area, both of them leap into combat, punching and kicking. Back on the train, Steve wraps up the thugs and then sees the train has been detached. So he runs full speed to the edge and he leaps over to the other car. With nothing in his way, he walks over to the suicide bomber. "You don't have to do this, son. There's a better way. We talked to your mother. She wants you to come home. Look around, Cap. Don't you see it? What they've done to us? That's why I have to finish this. There's nowhere left to go. Hail Hydra." And he presses the button. The train car explodes in Steve's face as he puts up his shield, throwing him off of the train. And with that, he heads back to the base where he sits with Sharon on the deck of the helicarrier. She jokes that before he got old and then young again, he knew how to duck punches. And he tells her it's the new shield. He's getting used to it. They joke and he explains that the new Hydra is really bothering him. What they believe in and what they do. It's really getting under his skin. She tells him not to let it get to him like that. People fall apart, they go astray. But she loves how he tries. She leans in to kiss him, and then she snuggles on his shoulder as they watch the sunset. Jack Flag, Free Spirit, and Rick Jones all have a beer to celebrate. And then news from Maria Hill comes down. She's found Baron Zemo. S.H.I.E.L.D. has been looking for him ever since the incident at Pleasant Hill, where he broke free and tried to control the Cosmic Cube, going by the name Kobik. He escaped with Slavig, the doctor that S.H.I.E.L.D. had used to research the Cosmic Cube, and they've been looking for little Kobik together ever since. Right now, Zemo is in Bagelia, a city with no laws or rules, which is basically supervillain central. Right now, Zemo is standing on a rooftop with a few villains that he could muster up. His plan is to stage a coup against Red Skull. He wants to make a better side of Hydra and take back the glory. That's when we see it's only 3 people that have arrived, and Zemo rubs his face. "I can't believe I'm starting over like this." "Well, don't worry, Baron Zemo. I think I can save you the effort," Steve shouts as he leaps in with Jack Flag and Free Spirit. Zemo runs for his ship while the new Hydra agents begin to fight it out with all of the heroes, and Steve runs for the ship, leaping onto the roof of it. He begins to walk up the ship as Zemo is taking off, with Slavig tied up next to him. He jumps onto the ship, and we have the age-old fight of Zemo versus Steve Rogers until Zemo drops the cargo hatch, almost throwing Steve out of the ship. He grips onto the edge of the ship while Jack Flag sees him and realizes Steve needs his help. Zemo sees that he has Steve beat, so he raises his sword to drop him off the ship, only to have Jack Flag punch him and help Steve up. Jack sees the scientist and the defeated Zemo, and he tells Steve, "That's awesome! We accomplished the mission!" Steve looks down at the ground. "Damn it. Is everything okay, Steve?" "No, it isn't. I'm sorry, Jack." He puts his hand on Jack's shoulder, confusing him. Back in 1926, with that woman that saved Sarah Rogers and her young son, Steve, she wanted to show Sarah something of interest, a group that she might be interested in, the Hydra Society. And back on the ship in the current day, Cap throws Jack Flag out of the cargo door that's still open. Steve regrets what he had to do, as Jack was a hero, a true hero, but a price must be paid. He walks forward to see Slavig. Hail Hydra. So how did this happen? How did our true and faithful Steve Rogers turn sides? It all started back with Red Skull when he had the Cosmic Cube. Just when he felt that he had won, Steve broke into his hideout and a fight ensued between them that ended with Steve shattering the Cosmic Cube. Those pieces were then collected and studied in a lab at S.H.I.E.L.D., where they reacted and killed everyone that was studying them. Maria Hill then brought in Dr. Slavig to see what he could do with what remained, because what remained was a little girl. The cube had given life to itself, and just as any child newly born, she went to where she felt loved and safe. And that was the Red Skull. She arrived there asking if the Red Skull remembered her, and he ordered her shot. As a matter of fact, he even told his thugs to aim a little lower if they're shooting at a child. The bullets first bounced off of her, and that's when his daughter Sin decided that she would stop the child, and once again, the bullets didn't work. And instead, Kobik healed her face. Red Skull demanded to know what was going on, and Kobik told him to stop yelling at her. She thought that he would be nice like he was before she was broken, when they made a world together. That rang a few bells in Red Skull's head, and he finally realized that this was his Cosmic Cube. Confused and upset, she asked Red Skull if they could be friends again, and with a grin, he told her, "Of course." Since S.H.I.E.L.D. had her, Red Skull had her going back there for their testing so that he could spy in the operations against him. She tells him everything, and then when asked if anyone suspects, she explains no one knows what her and Slavig are doing. Red Skull hears a name and he asks, "Who is that?" So Kobik showed him. She warped Red Skull to the S.H.I.E.L.D. base and into Slavig's lab, where he kneels before Red Skull, declaring him supreme leader. Using Xavier's brain, which he took years before this, Red Skull looked into Slavig's memories to see what Kobik had done. She altered everything. His entire history had been changed. In his new life, Slavig was a trained Hydra agent, and he grew up worshiping the supreme leader. But these weren't just new memories for him, it was his actual past. His actual timeline had been altered to make this a reality. So Red Skull had an idea. To stage the entire Pleasant Hill event. Make a prison using Kobik so that the prisoners could break out and Zemo could think that he was free. This would allow Red Skull to infiltrate the entire event as the priest. He steered the events to make it so that Steve Rogers would go looking for Kobik and save him from his beating at the hands of Crossbones. Because Red Skull wanted Kobik to do something to Steve Rogers that she did compassionately, not something that she was forced to do. And just as Steve was about to die, Kobik altered him. She restored his youth and his powers, yes, but she rewrote his timeline in history. She made him Hydra because Red Skull wanted to rule Earth with Steve Rogers at his side, and now he had it. Back in the current day, Steve takes off his shirt and he rubs the Hydra symbol onto his chest as he calls up the Red Skull. He then asks for forgiveness. The Red Skull tells him, "That will depend on your actions in Begilia." After throwing Jack Flag out of the plane, he sat and turned it on autopilot and removed Slavig's mouth gag. Slavig smiled. "So it's true! Supreme Leader said you would join us, but I didn't believe." "I serve the one true Hydra, Dr. Slavig." "Right, not Zemo charade." "Well, this is wonderful. Let's go back to looking for Kobik. I am so eager to serve the Supreme Leader." "Doctor, I think you misunderstand why I'm here." It takes a second for Slavig to get it, but he finally does. "Oh no. Steve walks over and grabs the doctor. "Supreme Leader would like to thank you for your continued service and tireless pursuit of knowledge on his behalf." And then as the doctor was calling out, Steve jumped off the plane, killing both Slavig and Zemo. At least, that's the story that he told Red Skull to make him happy with the answers. Steve asked if Slavig could have been useful in their search for Kobik, and Red Skull tells him, "No, because Kobik is gone. If not, she would have returned to me after Pleasant Hill." As Steve tells the Red Skull, there have been complications. Jack Flag lives. Everyone showed up to rescue him, but Taskmaster arrived to fight against Sharon Carter. Luckily, Steve returned to beat down Taskmaster, and as martial law was called, they got Jack Flag out of the area. Red Skull screams at Steve, "He's alive!" I didn't think that he could survive a fall like that, but Jack's strong, always has been. You should have blown him up with the rest of them. It wasn't an option, Supreme Leader. Jack is strong, he would have been a problem. Besides, he deserved a real funeral. Deserved? Deserved? What do I deserve? I am your Supreme Leader. I am your life. You are too sought-after, Rogers. It is clouding your judgment like that with the suicide bomber. Why did you try to save him? I don't understand, Supreme Leader. The mission was intended to fail. I didn't want to lose a loyal recruit. Red Skull hangs up, and Steve begins to walk out of the comms room. He sees a man sitting there and he asks him, Dr. Slavig, are you ready to do what needs to be done? Steve explains that S.H.I.E.L.D. is tearing itself apart after the fallout of Pleasant Hill, and the superheroes are now fighting amongst themselves thanks to something known as Civil War. And when Dr. Slavig asks him about Kobik, Steve explains that he knows where Kobik is. She's looking up to Bucky and working with the Thunderbolts. He then reveals that Red Skull wanted to kill Dr. Slavig, but Steve sees a bigger purpose for Dr. Slavig. Steve intends to kill the Red Skull. He feels that he is a poor leader for Hydra, and he needs the Doctor's help. And the first thing that happens is Deadpool tries to break into the prison that Hawkeye is being held in to free him. He wants to know why he did this, and he set up Clint with a new identity to allow him to walk free. Clint refuses to go though. He wants to take his chances within the court, and while he used to hate Deadpool, he understands him now. Deadpool makes the hard choices for people so that others don't have to, like Clint did with Bruce Banner. Deadpool tells him, yeah, it gets easier. It's the first kill that's the hardest, but after a while, I'm sure he'll be the next Punisher. And as Clint chuckles at that comment, Deadpool wished him luck in the courts and says that he'll see him in 25 to life. Meanwhile, Steve Rogers gets called to New Attilan because of a vision. Ulysses, the new inhuman that the entire Civil War II event is based around, warns Captain America that his team is about to make some very poor decisions, and it's not Deadpool that he has to worry about. It's Cable, and the children of the Atom are about to wage war against the Inhumans. Ulysses explains that Cable is keeping rather poor company right now, and Cap has to stop it. So he heads off to find Cable, and he finds him on a rainy night loading up a plane for a vacation. He shows up with the entire law enforcement team to talk it out with Cable, but Cable pushes him aside, telling him that it's just a vacation. And when he loads up in his plane, Steve stands there doubting him. On board, we see Rogue is ready to go, along with Sebastian Shaw and Toad, because they're going to find the cure to save mutant kind. If you haven't been following the mutant storylines, recently a cloud of Terrigen mist has been let loose upon the world. While this makes new Inhumans, allowing them to grow, the very same cloud will kill any mutant who breathes it. It's been a time of tension between the mutants and the Inhumans, but Cable and Rogue feel that they might have a cure to save everyone. Meanwhile, over in Tokyo, an evil organization known as the Hand is aware of the passing of Bruce Banner, and they feel that under some of their spells, he might come in handy. You know, if they would raise him from the dead. While this is happening, Deadpool goes to visit Quicksilver in the hospital. He's been recovering ever since Ultron broke his leg in multiple spots, and we see that he's on the phone with a friend. But it's not the friend that we're expecting, as we see on the other side, it's Red Skull using the brain of Xavier that he stole to manipulate Quicksilver. Deadpool goes with Quicksilver and Synapse to the funeral of Bruce Banner, where Steve asks him, where are the rest of the mutants? Why aren't they here, Deadpool? Deadpool tells him, I have no idea, Steve. And Steve warns him. Tony Stark is about to wage war with the Inhumans over the Ulysses thing. If the mutants are also going to start a fight on another front, there's going to be hell to pay. While this is happening, Cable, Rogue, Shaw, and Toad are attacking a military base where they are testing the Terrigen mist to see if they can find a cure. As they run out of the base with the research, we find Deadpool standing in the plane, munching on a snack, telling them, you know, I had to lie to Steve Rogers for you. You owe me one. Except, Steve isn't dumb. As he stands there looking at the group, I warned you. We're in the middle of a war, and my own team of Avengers protecting Unity is breaking into a military base. Cable glares at him. You know what we're up against, Rogers. The Team Mists are killing mutants. Step aside. We're leaving with the research. And Steve throws his shield at Toad, knocking him down. Rogue tries to talk down Steve, but he's furious. Now you want to talk? The only way this ends is you all facing justice. Shaw steps forward. Captain, mutant kind does not have years that it'll take to convince the military to share this data. And Cable blasts Shaw with his gun. Let's speed this up. Now charged up, Shaw asks Captain to stand down so they don't have to fight. But Steve's not stepping aside, and the fight begins. Steve punches Shaw, and then Cable tackles him to the ground. He begins to choke him with one hand while he gets ready to hit him with the other, and Rogue knocks Cable off of him, stopping it. She holds him down, telling him, "Everyone get on the plane." And Steve calls out, "Do not let them get on that plane, Deadpool." Deadpool looks down at the case with the research, and he debates his actions. But in the end, while Steve is his friend, his daughter might be a mutant. He can't let a cure pass him by, and he throws it to Toad. Everyone except Steve, Rogue, and Deadpool leave the area. Deadpool tries to explain the situation with his daughter, but Steve doesn't care. "You lied to me at my own friend's funeral. You're fired, Wilson." And then Rogue tries to defend Deadpool, and Steve says, "The entire team is finished. There is no unity in the Unity Squad," which may prove a problem shortly as the Hand begins to raise the corpse of Bruce Banner out of the ground. Rogue and Deadpool sit down to talk about what they're going to do now in their destroyed base of operations. It hasn't been repaired since Ultron wrecked it. That's when Voodoo warns them that they need to get the Avengers together to fight against a weapon of mass destruction, the resurrected body of Bruce Banner. The Hand is about to turn him to their side. Realizing they'll need help in this potential battle in Japan, they decide to get the rest of the Avengers that they can find. Johnny Storm, Quicksilver, Synapse, and Wasp. The team questions where Rogers and Cable are, but Rogue says that they'll explain it later, and Voodoo makes a doorway to Japan. They arrive and they immediately meet up with Elektra and the Hand as the Hand launches an attack on the team. In the middle of Tokyo, an all-out battle begins with Rogue demanding to know where the body of Bruce Banner is being moved to. Once they drop them all, Voodoo reads the thoughts of one of the guys and learns of the location, once again teleporting the entire team to the Hand's hideout. They tear through the agents of the Hand trying to get to Banner's body, and they actually succeed. They get there and they stop the ritual that is going to revive him. No big evil Hulk to fight, until they discover that it was all a ploy to get them away from the real Hulk. He was resurrected hours ago, and he comes crashing through the wall. His hit knocked the entire team out of the building and into the snow, where Deadpool wakes up in a footprint of the Hulk because he got stepped on. Rogue and Human Torch rocket off to find a way to get the Hulk away from the populated areas, and Deadpool lets his brain mend. "Siri, call Cable." "I'm sorry, Your Highness. I don't understand ball table. Maybe the Hand could resurrect Steve Jobs so I can kill him next time." "Cable, I know you're there. Hear me!" Over with Cable and their little group, they realize that the research that they retrieved is worthless and they're back to square one. And that's when Cable gets a news report about the team in a fight in Japan. He asks Shaw and Toad to join him as he teleports to Japan, and at first they agree, but when they poke their heads through the teleporter, they see everyone fighting the Hulk, and they realize that it's a rather bad idea to join Cable right now. They hit the Hulk with everything as they try to stomp him, and the Hulk charges at Cable, and he says to himself, "Damn it, what a stupid way to die." Until Rogue hits the Hulk with full momentum, launching him into the sky. No one dies today. He digs his hand into the ground to catch and steady himself, and then in his rampage, he grabs the giant Gundam statue and throws it into a building. The Avengers try to get the poor survivors out of the town, and Voodoo arrives, stating he can end the zombie Hulk, but he'll need 10 minutes to prepare. Rogue tells him he has 5, and Quicksilver carries him away to an isolated island known as Hashima Island. He asks how they're going to get the Hulk here, and Quicksilver chuckles, "I have no idea," and whoosh, he's gone. Meanwhile, Janet shrinks down and tries to talk some sense to him. "Bruce, it's me, Janet. I know something terrible has happened to you. Well, actually, a bunch of terrible things happened at once. I need you to fight this, Bruce. The Hulk is the strongest that there is, but I need you to be stronger." And the Hulk smashes his own head to get her out. Quicksilver runs by, catching her as she falls, and Rogue hits him in the jaw, but the hit just threw him in front of a nuclear power plant. Janet flies back over to tell Bruce that she won't let the Hulk win. She knows that this was Banner's worst fear, that the monster would prevail, and she won't let it. Rogue keeps hitting the Hulk around, trying to knock him senseless until she throws him into the ocean, giving him no time to do any real damage to the nuclear power plant. Except as they get closer to the edge of the area, the Terrigen mists in the area are severely hindering Rogue's powers. Deadpool tells everyone, "I'm pulling her out," and he begins to shoot wildly at the Hulk. Synapse tells everyone that she's suppressing the Hulk's optic nerve, making it hard for him to see. And Elektra tells her, "That's not how you blind someone." So she runs in, jumping on his chest, and shoves her size into his eyes. "That's how you blind someone." And Synapse tells her, "Well, I did it first." Torch zooms in and turns it up to full blast, using everything on the Hulk. And the only thing that he did was burn off the Hulk's clothing as he rampages back to the beach to get his revenge on Johnny. Rogue yells for Johnny to run, and Deadpool yells, "Oh fudge, he's nude, play dead!" Quicksilver quickly runs over, grabbing him, and then Voodoo reports to everyone that he's ready. So Cable body slide teleports the Hulk and everyone right to Brother Voodoo. Voodoo tells everyone to get the Hulk into the pentagram. And of course, this is the Hulk and no one can actually move him. So Synapse uses all of her abilities to block the signal from the Hulk's inner ear into his brain, throwing off his balance and knocking him to the ground. Voodoo throws up a magical bubble to hold him there, and then he walks into the mess to take this to the magical plane. He walks inside and he finds Banner deep inside, suppressed by the hand's magic, and he begins to remove the magical arrows. And the hand's spirit arrives, telling him, "Stop." Voodoo tells Banner, "Do not speak. Your spirit is in jeopardy." And then he turns to the hand's spirit. "Release the Hulk." They warned Voodoo that if he does this, his brother's soul will belong to the hand. Do you pick a friend or a brother? Voodoo continues to remove the magical arrows, telling them, "I choose my brother, Banner, the Avenger, because Daniel damned himself." The hand's spirit tells him that they will share his words with their new slave. And once free, Voodoo tells Banner, "You are free. Walk in the peace of the light. I'm sorry that they abused you." Tears stream down Banner's face as they step out of the magical plane together, and Voodoo holds Banner's dead body once again. Deadpool puts Banner into a body bag, which leads to everyone asking why Deadpool's carrying around a body bag. And the next question comes up. Was this the last Avengers mission? Is the group done without Captain America? Rogue tells them like hell it is, and Deadpool reminds them that they have unfinished business. The Red Skull still stole Xavier's brain from his dead corpse, and he's still using it to have access to Xavier's powers. So the group decides that they will continue on without Steve Rogers. And Johnny asks Elektra if she'd like to join the Avengers. She laughs as she walks away, finding that hilarious. As everyone leaves, Rogue remembers how bad things have gotten. While she was dealing with the death and the disease that the X-Men have been coping with, she forgets the costs that the Avengers have paid. Hank Pym is worse than death, as he's now half Ultron. Odin's son is missing. Wonder Man is lost in her head somewhere, and now Tony Stark is down, and so is Banner. She can't shake the feeling that the worst is yet to come. And as she thinks about this, Quicksilver is wrestling with the Red Skull, still in his mind talking to him, telling him, "Bring the Avengers to me right now." Our story begins with Sam Alexander and the Avengers fighting something. As the battle rages on, all of the heroes hold out as long as they can until finally Doctor Strange, with his sorcerers, manages to banish the threat. A massive explosion goes off and Sam picks himself up, asking if they're even still alive. Steve picks him up and says, "It looks like it, but now we have to clean up the mess." Sam looks out at the destruction and Steve tells him, "Don't worry though, Tony normally throws a pretty big shindig after these brouhahas." Sam then asks, what is a shindig, and a brouhaha for that matter? Steve looks at him and tells him, "There's going to be a big party. Now let's get to work." Later that night at Tony's penthouse, the Avengers have just that, a big brouhaha. Through the crowds, Sam notices Rogue and he says hello. She looks at him and tells him, "Oh right, Nova. You're a bit shorter than I remember though." Sam tells her he's actually the new Nova, and Rogue says, "Gotcha. So is this your first time at one of these things?" He tells her no, actually he fought with everyone when Phoenix came back. He's an Avenger. She smiles and tells him, "That's great. I didn't know they started a new Young Avengers." He stops her and tells her, "No, actually, I'm on the Avengers. So she tells him it was nice meeting him, but she needs to go find a restroom, and Sam politely says, "But we've already met." He tries to join in on the conversation between Jean and Miles, but Steve breaks it up, stating that they need Jean over in the kitchen. So Sam and Miles ask Steve if they should go too, and Steve tells him, "No, it's something serious. You need to just stay and enjoy the party." As the party begins to die down, Sam heads back home to where his mother is hopefully sleeping, which of course she is not. His mother tells him that they can't keep doing this, the late nights, the wondering if he's even going to come home. Sam tries to explain, but then she asks, "Did you even know what you were fighting today?" He begins to explain what Iron Man was thinking, that it all came out of a different dimension, maybe? And his mother stops him and tells him, "I don't want you to be an Avenger anymore." Sam shouts, "I have to be! They need me!" And then she hangs her head, and she tells him, "I need you too." Sam tells her, "Please, I know what I'm doing." And then she says that he just fought against something that he doesn't even know what it is. How does he even know how that helmet works? With no response, Sam's mother continues, "I get that the helmet connects you to your father, and being with the Avengers gives you a place to fit in, but all of this is killing me. We'll talk about it in the morning." As she leaves, Sam asks her a question. "How about I find out how the helmet works? Would that help? I know what I'm doing." Maybe? So a short while later, Sam reaches out to the smartest man that he knows, Tony Stark, who promptly tells him that he's very busy with important things, so call back in a few weeks. If you're wondering what he's so busy with, go check out the Civil War II video. He's kind of preoccupied fighting against Carol Danvers right now. But a few weeks pass and Sam still can't even seem to fit in, not even at home. One morning, Sam decides that it's time to try and reach out to Tony again, and as he calls, he gets the answering machine. And he realizes that something must be wrong. He has to go find Tony Stark. So Sam flies over to Tony's penthouse to find no one. And frustration begins to set in because Sam has no one to talk to. He then starts to power up his fist to hit the building, and then there's a sudden rumble. Sam says he didn't think he hit the building that hard, and then he notices explosions going on down the streets. As the smoke begins to clear, Mole Man appears riding a giant worm shouting, "The end of the service world begins now!" And after Mole Man shouts that, he looks around and realizes, where are all the superheroes at? Sam flies down telling him, I would like to know that too. No one's answering their comms. So Sam gets closer to the ground and some of Mole Man's monsters crawl out of the ground and open fire on him. Mole Man says that this is an embarrassment. Aren't there any real heroes to give me a challenge? Sam picks himself up stating, I am a real hero. And Mole Man tells him, well, if that's the case, why aren't any of your superhero friends coming to help? If they can see the future, why are you alone? Sam shouts, I don't need them to take you down, and he begins blasting away at the worm. Mole Man loses his balance and he falls, and he tells his men to retreat. And once they're gone, Sam stands up telling himself, I am a real hero. The victory is short-lived though, as the giant worm roars, and Sam figures, I might need some help with that though. As the civilians begin to run, a man sits in a bar asking, what the hell is everyone so afraid of? Superheroes will show up, they always do. And then Sam is thrown through the window and the man says, see, there's one. The man looks at Sam and he tells him, you know, they seem to be pulling them in a lot younger and younger these days. Who are you with? The Avengers? New Avengers? Young ones? I lost track of all of the names. Sam says that he's kind of busy at the moment dealing with the huge monster out there. The man sips his beer and says, that thing is called gentrification. Jumping back out, Sam asks him, what, are you a superhero? And the man tells him, barely. And then Sam says, I know how that feels. Suddenly a loud boom goes off, shaking the building and knocking over the man's beer. He looks up and says, that's a metaphor for, well, that's a metaphor for something. Even though I'm not very bright, I am strong and now I'm angry. The man gets up and he tells Sam, come on, let's go mess some stuff up. The two rocket back into the fight, punching the worm until it's finally over. And Sam tells him, thanks for the help. What's your name? The man tells him, I'm the captain. And Sam says, I'm sorry, but I've never heard of you. Captain asks, have you ever heard of Next Wave? And then he stops and says, don't worry about it. Next Wave hasn't really been a thing for a long time. So you're not a superhero anymore? The captain stops and tells him, there's already enough webbed wonders and sentinels of liberty fighting. Even with all of the superheroes not being around to help with this, there's only one person that I can really trust, and that's myself. So I get out to work on what I can and what's important. The captain walks away and Sam asks him, what's important? And he tells him, that's up to you. And with that, Sam heads back home. As he walks in the door, he asks his mom if they can talk. Lately, he's been confused, and after their talk a few weeks ago, some strange stuff has been happening. His mom tells him that she saw him on the news fighting that monster, and that man that helped him looked homeless. Sam says that he might be, but after they finish, the man told him that really the only person that he can trust is himself, and now with all of this stuff about looking into the future to stop things coming up, all he wanted to do was talk to that guy who can see things, and maybe he can help him find his dad. But now with everything happening, it's also scary and he doesn't know what to do. He continues stating that he tried to contact his teammates thinking that they could help, but they're all gone. So he's got to figure this thing out on his own. Remember when I said I needed to find out what's powering my helmet? Well, that's what I'm gonna do. And if I can't, I promise, I'll stop being Nova. Our story begins 4 months ago, with Bruce Banner waking up in the middle of the street from another blackout. The only thing he can think of while he grabs a shirt from the nearby house is how many lives did he just ruin? How many billions of dollars in property damage did he just destroy? There is one thing that he does know, and that's that he's in hell, because he's the Incredible Hulk. A short while later, Bruce heads down the road to a bar to make a phone call, and as he talks to the bartender, a customer notices Bruce wearing his shirt. The man comes over punching him, calling him a thief, and Bruce tries to control his anger. But as the man continues to yell, Bruce sees nothing happen. He gets up laughing, and he leaves, but the man continues to follow. The man grabs a hold of Bruce ready to punch him, and then a green hand reaches out and stops him. Bruce looks up and asks, Amadeus? And Amadeus tells him, pretty awesome, huh? After jumping through the Mojave Desert, Bruce asks him what's going on, and Amadeus explains that he cured him. Now Amadeus is the Hulk, check it out! The two enter into Bruce's old hideout, and Bruce says that he's been working on a cure for years, and Amadeus finishes stating, I just finished the job. Back when Hulk was being a hero and absorbing the radiation from a collapsing nuclear facility, the Hulk started to have a meltdown of his own. With all of the smartest minds in the Marvel Universe working on this project, Tony determined that the only option to save everyone from that meltdown was to teleport the Hulk into the negative zone. But that's when he showed up, and not saying that he's the smartest person in the world, just the eighth, he fixed everything. Bruce asks what did he do, and Amadeus tells him, it's a trade secret, but now you're totally gamma-free. Bruce takes the scanner and he shines it at Amadeus, stating, yeah, but you're not. Amadeus changes back into the Hulk, stating, yeah, but this is a good look on me. After leaving, Amadeus tells Bruce that he's had some anger issues on a whole nother level, but he's different. His Hulk is different. As he jumps away, Amadeus says that he doesn't have to worry about him. He's going to save the world and it's gonna be awesome. But him? Bruce Banner is finally free. As the night sets, Bruce sits and meditates, thinking about how he's never been cured before. And no matter what the machines state, he can still feel him under the skin. Or can he? The next day, Bruce heads out to do the things that he's never been able to do before, like race around in a car at high speeds, cross a river and be chased by a bear, and then fall off the cliff while being chased by that bear. And finally, he returns to the place where he caused so much destruction, Las Vegas. Even though all of the people run away at the sight of Bruce, Bruce continues to play. That is, until he hears the voice of Tony Stark calling out to him. Tony tells him that he got Amadeus' data and it shows him totally gamma-free, but he does have one question to ask. Is he trying to kill himself? Bruce asks what does he mean, and Tony explains that he's been watching him ever since the cure. All he's been doing is putting himself in terrible danger. After all of the things that he's done, just one person out of the 10,000 people in the street need to recognize him and take a shot. And then Tony changes his tone and tells Bruce, you know, it's not your fault. Bruce says that he doesn't know what he's talking about, and Tony continues to state that he knows that he doesn't want to think about this. And then Bruce tells him, shut up. Inside Bruce's head, he begins to think about all of the things that he's done as the Hulk, the places that he's been. But Bruce tells Tony that he's got a bigger problem to worry about, and that's forgiving him. The anger starts to build up in Bruce, and he shouts, it's my fault, and I'll never forget that. But everyone kept pushing and pushing when I just wanted to be left alone. Bruce slams his fist down, but he doesn't change. Tony steps outside of his suit telling him, you're right, and I'm sorry. So, if you want to take a shot at me, now's the time. Through his rage, Bruce begins to laugh. And then he hugs Tony. As the months begin to pass, Amadeus and his sister Mandy go out looking for Bruce in California because his body readings are going out of control, and Amadeus finds him laying on a beach sick. Bruce says that he's got influenza. Isn't it amazing? It's the first time in years since he's been sick. So a little while later, Bruce finds himself in his hideout resting. Amadeus and Maddie make Bruce some soup, and suddenly there's a knock at the door. In comes Rick Jones and Jennifer Walters, and Amadeus asks, what are they doing here? Maddie says that she invited them. And Amadeus says the whole point of a secret hideout is to be secret. Rick tells him that he was in on this particular secret when he was in diapers. A short while later, everyone relaxes as Bruce continues to tack away at his computer. Rick tells him that he should stop with the sciencing thing and come play cards with them. And Bruce says maybe later. He's actually spending all of his time in Minecraft right now. Maddie asks if he's killed the Ender Dragon yet, and he tells her no. He's just been roaming around trying to find a jungle so that he can tame an ocelot. Maddie then asks if he's been setting up a base every night to stay in, and he tells her there's no need. He likes to play it on peaceful. Once Bruce finally falls asleep, Jennifer says that even though he's sick, Bruce seems so happy. She then tells Amadeus that she knows she had given him a hard time before, but she just wants to say. And as everyone turns back, they see Amadeus is gone. Elsewhere in the hideout, Amadeus looks at a vault, and Rick walks up stating that there's a lot of memories in that thing, particularly when he first watched Bruce change into that huge Hulk and lock himself in there. Rick goes on stating, well, that's all changed now, and then suddenly the door begins to close. Rick asks what's going on, and Amadeus says that he just wants to test something. Back out in the kitchen, Jennifer and Maddie begin to hear loud booms, and when they get to the vault, they see Amadeus breaking out of it. He tells him it really wasn't that strong, was it? And he leaps away. Jennifer begins to chase after him, asking what the hell is going on, and he tells her that everything's fine, and Maddie flies by. A freeze beam fires out, and Amadeus comes crashing back down to the ground, and she tells him that's enough, he needs to tell them. Amadeus tells her that there's nothing to tell, but she stops him and says, fine, she'll tell him. She turns back to Rick and Jennifer and tells them that Amadeus has been having blackouts where he doesn't remember being the Hulk, which is why they came to talk to Bruce. Amadeus gets a word in though, stating that Bruce is finally at peace. You can't go dumping this on him now. Jennifer just begins brushing away the ice, stating that it's just the gamma radiation amping up his emotions. They can work through it. But as he changes back, Amadeus says that this is different. He literally blacks out. The last time he helped Enchantress raid a Dwarven fortress. Rick asks if he's hurt anyone, and Amadeus tells him no, but his fear is that what if him and the Hulk have different ideas of who should be hurt during that blackout? Rick says that maybe he should talk to Bruce. Amadeus returns to the hideout and he finds Bruce sitting at the table, and he tells him that he should be in bed. Bruce said he's actually reading up on the heroing thing that Amadeus has been doing. He's kind of ridiculous, but he's really doing it, so he can finally let it go. Amadeus stops and says, yeah. Bruce notices the dubious yet troubled smile. Bruce then asks, have you killed anyone? Amadeus tells him no, and Bruce goes on stating, I did once. When I was 4, I watched my father kill my mother, and years later, I killed him. Though I didn't mean to. The fact is, I did. Amadeus tells him that he's not a monster, and Bruce says that that's what he's always said even when the people didn't believe it. And then he says that if he isn't scared of him, how the hell can he be scared of himself? Amadeus sneezes, and Bruce looks up stating, you're burning up. So Bruce helps take care of Amadeus just as they took care of him. And at the end of the day, Bruce can look out into the field and finally know peace. That is, until he was shot. Time passed during the events of the Second Civil War, and a news report goes out regarding the recent killing of Bruce Banner by the hero who killed him, Clint Barton. Maddie listens in as the news goes on, talking about how Bruce Banner's Hulk was a monster. And even with their new Hulk, can that new Hulk be trusted? As Amadeus lays in his bed, Maddie brings him some soup and tells him to eat. Amadeus says that he's fine, and Maddie tells him that she knows what he's thinking. He cured Bruce, and if he hadn't when Barton came for him, Bruce never would have died. She tells him that it's not his fault. The last time that they saw Bruce, he was really happy. Genuinely happy. That's what Amadeus did for him. And then the sound of the doorbell stops Maddie. The two of them go to check who it is, and as Amadeus opens the door, he says, "I know it's not my fault. It's theirs." Outside the door, Carol Danvers is waiting with soldiers all pointing their guns. Amadeus asks her, "Should I be worried?" And Carol tells him no. They just wanted to see how he was doing. Amadeus says that he's fine, and even with 14 different kinds of sensors running tests on me right now, I'm perfectly normal and stable. Who would have thunk? However, according to my readings, Agent Jake over there with the ultrasonic sensor rifle is about to have a heart attack. Carol tells him that he needs to be serious for a minute, and Amadeus asks, "You want serious? You shot my best friend in the eye in cold blood. I know you had your prophecy guy telling you that Bruce was gonna kill everyone someday, but he was cured and he was happy." Carol tells him that the person who shot Bruce was completely unauthorized, and he's been taken into custody and he's been tried. But Amadeus stops her, telling her that he knows that in his brain, but in his heart, it's a little different. Amadeus then tells him, "I know you're worried that I'm gonna be going all crazy. Even I would be worried. I'm just a 19-year-old kid. I'm young and confused. All I wanna do is mourn for a little while. Is that okay?" Maddie shouts out, "Of course it is! Now everyone get the hell out of here!" And Jake reports that all signs remain normal. And Carol tells him, "Of course they are. I'm sorry for your loss. Contact me if you ever need me." Before leaving, Amadeus calls out to Carol and asks, "If I was to go crazy, what makes you think you could stop me?" Carol stares back, and then she watches Amadeus smile. And then she smiles and tells him to take care. A little while later, Amadeus is jumping through West Virginia while Carol watches from above in the Shield helicarrier. Jake reports that his readings are going off the charts. He's just going crazy. Amadeus continues punching away, and a voice tells them that they need to intervene right now. Carol continues to watch and then tells them to wait. There it is. On the screen, they see the message, "Made you look," punched into the ground. Soon, Amadeus' levels return to normal, and Carol says they should back off for a bit. And a voice tells her, yes, she needs to back off. And then T'Challa says, "I'll take it from here." A short while later, T'Challa takes off in his jet, and Agent Jake tells him that it's seriously an honor to come with him on this mission. He's read every debrief about all of T'Challa's missions, and T'Challa stops him, stating, "I've read about you too, how you served under James Rhodes. James Rhodes, who was just killed in one of Carol's missions. So maybe you might be mad at her? And on the other hand, I nearly killed James in the first war between the heroes. So maybe you're mad at me. So what is it that you think you're doing here?" Jake stops for a minute and then he says, he joined S.H.I.E.L.D. because he believes that there are some problems in the world that can't be solved without force. And the Hulk may be one of those problems. He also believes that force should be the last resort. He doesn't want to see Amadeus end up like James. T'Challa tells him that he speaks to the King of Wakanda. Every moment of his conscious life, he has to weigh the consequences of fighting and failing to fight. So, with the lives of thousands in the balance, does he really think that he has something to contribute to that? Jake then says, he's a soldier, the kind of grunt who has to deal with those decisions made by kings. So yes sir, he does. T'Challa and Jake go back to monitoring Amadeus, and they continue to read that his readings are normal. And then they see him write the word "buy" and ketchup on the table. And then all of the monitors suddenly go out. Out on the road, Amadeus races down the street when a shadow begins to form over him, and Maddie yells that he needs to stop. She's been watching his movements and she knows where he's heading, so what the hell is he thinking? He tells her that Barton killed Bruce, and Maddie adds, because Bruce told him to. Everyone saw the video played at the trial. Amadeus shouts, he wasn't in control. I cured him. There's no way that Bruce would have turned into the Hulk again. And Maddie asks, what is he going to do when he finds Barton? Amadeus tells her, I'll figure that out when I see him. Maddie begins to get reports that there is a new monster sighted in Austin, Texas. And it's a job for the Hulk, so they need to head. Amadeus stops her, telling her not to distract him. Besides, he's already tracking a monster, so send Carol Danvers to Austin. Later that night, Amadeus swims through the ocean until he arrives on a beach. As he walks through the woods, he finds a cabin, and inside, Clint Barton is sitting eating his cereal when the door swings open and Amadeus is standing there. Clint tells him, I know you're angry. And Amadeus begins to change into the Hulk, and he tells him, you have no idea. Clint tells him, I thought so. and then he begins to fade, and T'Challa is standing in his place. Amadeus shouts, "Where's Barton?" And T'Challa tells him, "Nowhere that you're gonna find him." Outside of the cabin, barriers start to close off the area, and Amadeus manages to jump out just as they're closing. As he does, T'Challa jumps after him in his own Hulkbuster armor, firing a sonic gun. Amadeus pulls back and releases a powerful clap that sends the suit flying. Jake reports that the gamma levels are spiking, and next T'Challa fires a spore cloud to try and knock out Amadeus. Through the smoke, Amadeus punches back, and then he runs over stating, "I didn't come here to fight." And T'Challa tells him, "Then you need to surrender." Amadeus tells him, "You have no right to make those demands. I didn't do anything. I just came here too." And T'Challa reaches out and grabs onto him. He tells Amadeus that the armor absorbs and magnifies energy, so the more he fights, the stronger that T'Challa's gonna get. T'Challa goes on stating, "You can surrender." But then the radio goes off as Maddie calls in. Amadeus tells her that he's fine, and she tells him, well, she's not. She's in Texas and they have a big problem. Just 15 minutes before Maddie made her call, the streets of Austin were filled with people, in particular one boy who was watching the people. He watches how everyone is happy, and how boring that is. The boy then cuts the string off of the child's balloon, and as the child cries, he says, "Well, that's not enough. It's not enough. It's not enough." And then he begins to change. As the people begin to run, an explosion goes off. And back in Arkansas, the struggle between Amadeus and T'Challa continues as T'Challa pins Amadeus down. While Amadeus is trying to fight back, Maddie continues telling him what's going on out in Texas. Soon the rage begins to run through Amadeus, and he rips off one of the suit's arms. T'Challa shouts for Jake to teleport him out, but Jake says that the energy coming off of him, it's like, wait, he set off a mini EMP. As the Hulkbuster loses power, Amadeus begins jumping away, and over in Texas, Maddie tries to fight off the giant bug creature. The monster tells her that she's all locked up, totally under control. So he swings at her again and he tells her,
"How about you feel some fear? Maybe grief? How about anger?"
The creature then notices a woman trying to run away and he slashes away at her chest. Once the woman falls, the child begins to cry and the creature says,
"That's what I'm looking for."
Maddie manages to shock the creature and tells Amadeus that the creature is some kind of emotional leech. So if you want to beat it, you need to control yourself. The creature jumps back up, slashing towards Maddie and knocking her down. And he tells her,
"Yes, you're finally losing it. I love that anger."
Suddenly a shadow appears overhead and Amadeus comes crashing down onto the creature. The two start punching away at each other and the creature tells him,
"This is so good."
With the emotions that Amadeus is going through, the creature slowly begins to get larger and it cuts down on Amadeus' face. Maddie shouts to stop. "All you're doing is feeding him." And Amadeus tells her, "I know." And soon Amadeus turns the struggle and throws the creature onto his back, punching him harder and deeper into the ground. He shouts, "No one can stop me. I'm the strongest that there is." Then soon the creature calls out,
"Yes, pride, I love it."
Once the creature stands back up, it starts swinging its claws, cutting into Amadeus. And as blood begins to drip from his wounds, Amadeus stands in shock, and then he falls over. The creature reaches out and grabs a hold of the child from there and begins walking down the alleyway. Maddie chases after it, but the creature is gone. And Amadeus starts to get back up, and Maddie then says, "When are you going to listen?" T'Challa and Jake then make their way to the scene, and Amadeus tells them, "Please, help me." Amadeus begins to change back into his human form, stating, "That monster took the kid. We need to find." And suddenly a laser is fired out, hitting Amadeus. T'Challa looks back and Jake says they have to stick to the plan. They have to send him into the negative zone. Maddie begins to shout, "What? No, no, no! We don't have time for this! Everyone's gonna have to suck it up and work together." T'Challa and Jake help the woman up, and T'Challa agrees to help, and Amadeus and Maddie get back to work trying to figure out what their next move is. As they look into the alleyway, they see a crack in the ground, and Maddie says that the monster just changed size. Amadeus looks and says that it's an irregular shaft about 10 inches wide at its narrowest, which means him and Maddie are the only ones who can fit. T'Challa tells him, "Fine, but no fighting. I'll give you orbs so we can track you while I find another way down." Soon, Amadeus and Maddie start making their way down, and Jake radios in that the subject's name is Christian Sung. He's a music student from Johnson State and has no criminal record. As they get further down in the hole, Maddie begins to notice that the passage is a little too narrow for her, and then she realizes that Amadeus did that on purpose. Once he jumps down into the sewer, he tells her exactly, and he runs off ahead. He then turns the corner and he sees Christian holding the screaming child. Christian says that the child is very, very scared, and Amadeus tells him, "Yeah, we should get him back to his mother." Christian then says, "I like scared, but it's getting boring," and he holds the child over the ledge. Amadeus tells him that they all just need to calm down. And Christian says, "I know all about you and the fact that you're the Hulk. I know all about the anger, fear, pride, the emotions inside of you. So I'm going to kill as many people as I can just to see what I can get out of you." Suddenly, Christian releases the child, but before the child can land, T'Challa jumps through, catching him. Amadeus changes back into the Hulk and he grabs a hold of Christian, and he tells Jake to activate the negative zone teleporter. Jake begins working away, and then Maddie overrides his computer, telling him that he will not be sending him because that will also send Amadeus with him. Amadeus struggles with Christian and tells her, "I have to do it. And Maddie tells him no, but Amadeus tells her, shut up and just let me do it. Maddie finally falls through the cracks, and then Christian focuses his attention towards her. She begins firing her gun, changing her emotions, and Christian shouts,
So good!
and then Maddie shouts, now! And Christian suddenly stops, and then a light shines as the teleporter takes him away. Amadeus says,
That was amazing.
and Maddie says, yeah, okay then, bye. Amadeus asks where she's going, and she stops and turns and tells him, I'm done with all of this. Every time you say you're learning or you're getting a little bit better, you just fall back down. So I'm not gonna be your enabler, because you might hurt someone someday. I don't want to hear any more excuses. You should never have become the Hulk. A week passes, and Amadeus finally manages to track down the man that he's been looking for, Clint Barton. As he walks into the diner, he tells him that he shouldn't be alone, it's dangerous for him. And Clint says that he really doesn't know what he wants, but he did kill Bruce for good reasons. He's been thinking about those reasons over and over ever since then. Amadeus smashes his fist down and he says that he told Carol that she couldn't stop him if he wanted to kill Clint. No one can stop him. Not her, not S.H.I.E.L.D., not even his sister. It felt good to look her in the eyes and tell her that. Rather, actually know that. Like, I'm in charge. As Clint sits without saying a word, Amadeus changes back, stating, all I really want is my friend back. I shouldn't even be here. Bruce wouldn't have wanted this. He would have said everything's gonna be okay. And Amadeus looks at Clint, but I'm not okay. Not even a little bit. Clint looks at him, and tears begin to stream down his face. And he tells him, neither am I. Amadeus begins to cry with him, and the two of them just sit there. While Ben Grimm dreams of the girl that he left behind on the planet, the one who seemed to adore him, yet he didn't understand a single word from her, and somehow they apparently became space married, they hit the road in a manner of speaking, until they got a call from Captain Marvel. She told them that there was an issue on Earth that she would like them to return for. If you've been missing it on Earth, there was an inhuman discovered who can see the future. Captain Marvel wants to use these visions to arrest people before they can act, while Tony Stark wants to run more tests and figure out a different plan. This has led to a battle between the heroes, known as Civil War II, and there's an entire video focusing on that storyline alone. But knowing that she would need some backup, Captain Marvel called on her friends. The team puts it to a vote as not everyone wants to return to Earth. Angela votes that they return, and Peter Quill votes it as well. Drax says that he's ambivalent, and Groot says, I am Groot. Gamora raises her hand while Rocket is growling, and so does Kitty. And Flash Thompson leans in to vote yes, while Ben Grimm tells everyone, just great. So if I vote no, I'm the jerk. They ask him why he left anyway, and he tells them, one of the reasons was because I didn't want to be involved in any more superhero fighting. And Kitty asks him what the other reason was, as he sadly walks away. I'm gonna get a snoozer. Wake me when we get back to Earth. Everyone prepares for their journey back to Earth in their own ways, such as Kitty and Peter spending alone time together and Gamora meditating. But in the end, Rocket reports that they have arrived and boom, they take a hit. Everyone looks out the window to see Carol Danvers is about to slam the ship into oblivion. And Peter calls out, Carol, you called us. She smiles sheepishly, telling them that she's sorry. They get to meet Alpha Flight and Peter heads off to talk to Carol, where he discovers the horrible truth of everything that is happening. Carol explains how they found an inhuman that could see the future. Peter then takes this information to Kitty, where he explains what happened. They found an inhuman that could see the future, and he got a vision of Thanos coming to Earth. So Carol took the Ultimates up to battle against him, and in the fight, James Rhodes, also known as War Machine, died, and She-Hulk was critically injured. James Rhodes was Carol's boyfriend and Tony Stark's best friend, which is why they are fighting about what to do with the Inhuman now. But the thing is, Thanos is still on Earth. Kitty reels back from this news. The same Thanos that Drax and Gamora are always talking about? Yeah. The same Thanos that is Gamora's adopted father? I do believe that there's only one Thanos, Kitty. The same Thanos that Gamora has been looking all over the galaxy for? Yeah. Where's Thanos now? Danvers didn't say. We have to tell Gamora. She'll be thrilled! And Peter looks away. Peter, you have to tell Gamora. She won't be thrilled, Kitty. You have to tell her, Peter. Go right now and tell her. You don't understand, Kitty. Thanos does something to her. Every time that she's gotten to him, he gets in her head and he escapes. People, friends have died trying to help her. What if this once, just this once, we think about our actions and not tell her? But what will we do if Gamora finds out that we didn't tell her? Yeah. The Guardians get into position where they begin to realize what they're doing. They're siding with Carol Danvers because she's their friend, but do they actually believe in this cause? Do they believe in profiling individuals based on future predictions? Gamora tells them that if she has any chance of preventing Thanos before it can happen, then it is a good thing. But as they debate everything, sitting up above the world in a spaceship, the superheroes all gather as tensions have brought the fight to its peak. And since the Guardians have a cloaking device on, no one can even tell that they're there. Ben Grimm looks down, seeing the obvious stuff that has changed while he was gone, such as 2 Captain Americas and 2 Iron People. While they all sit there itching to join the fight, Carol radios up to wait for her signal. Everyone puts on their masks and they get their weapons ready. In an epic fashion, Carol tells Tony that he's under arrest and not to worry about her numbers. She has friends. The Guardians all leap out of their spaceship, ready to fight this out. The fight was intense and many people were injured. But this comic does not tell us the story of this fight. The Civil War II comic did. If you want to know about the fight, you just have to watch that video or read that series. But for those of you who don't care, 14 minutes later, Rocket almost cried as the Guardian ship was destroyed. And 36 minutes later, the battle ended. Peter told Rocket that it sucked that he lost his ship, and Rocket was stunned. He put everything he had into that ship. Everything that all of the Guardians owned was there. Carol didn't seem to care, and that just made Rocket even madder. So eventually he went to go have a seat, while Peter pulled Carol aside to tell her that she was right. But that isn't the worst thing that came out of this fight. One of the soldiers came over to ask for a report. He wanted to know if Thanos was still locked in the basement. Gamora overheard him. She walked into the basement without hesitation, and she demanded to be let in, and the guards told her to turn around. So she dropped them all, demanding to know where he is. She continued to battle them until Carol stopped her, calling out to Gamora, asking, "How dare you?" And she looked up at Carol. "You have Thanos here? I'm not doing this here. Where is he, Marvel?" Gamora, "Where is my father?" Carol didn't answer her, so Gamora stood up and began to walk away. Carol reached out for her and the two of them fought for a few moves before Carol used her power to stop Gamora. Peter tried to warn Carol, but she told him to back off as she has this. She grabbed Gamora and she rocketed out of the building and into the limits of space with Gamora demanding that she let her go. And after landing a punch, Carol told her okay, and she dropped her. She fell from the highest point into the ocean, where Carol floated nearby telling her to calm down, and Gamora demanded to know why she didn't tell her. The fight continued until Carol stood up and told her, "This is why I didn't tell you. Exactly what you're doing right now. Everyone knows that you're this perfect warrior except when it comes to Thanos. This is what he does to you." And then Carol put her hands to her face. Quill was right. I should have just told you. And that, my listeners, is how this got worse. Because Gamora turned to her asking, "Quill knew?" She kicked Carol back and told her not to look for her, and she fled the area. News got back to the rest of the Guardians quickly. Peter Quill knew Thanos was here and he didn't tell any of them. They were a team. No, they were more than a team. They were family. Rocket of all couldn't believe that he lied, and he walked off. And Drax simply left without a word. Thus, the Guardians of the Galaxy were disbanded. All because of Civil War II. Sam thinks back to how things came to be, and feeling helpless. The feeling of wanting to do something, anything, and then it being too late. War filled the skies with heroes, and a war filled the ground with the Americops. The Americops brought law and order to the streets, whether people liked it or not. And Sam's hotline, which he started so that he can help people directly, is filled with nothing more than people reporting how the Americops are harassing people who didn't do anything. The man who started funding this whole thing is super billionaire Paul Keene, who received backing from Senator Tom Harold, who passed a bill that forces federal agencies to cooperate with these Americops. To top it all off, they also have Harry Hauser, a radio host who tells the public how these beatdowns are keeping their kids safe from the unsavory types. Joaquin, Sam's sidekick and the new Falcon, tells everyone that he got pictures of the Americops' beatings to bring them down. And Sam tells them that they need a video of them doing it, and no one's been recording. Joaquin says, "Come on! The Americops are bad, and we stick up for the poor people." And Sam tells him, "I know how you feel, but we can't just be going after these guys unless we have proof. I won't be walking into another political landmine, especially not with that other thing that's going on." Not long before Civil War broke out, Tony came to Sam to convince him to be on his side, as well as Carol. They both wanted the current Captain America. On one side, Carol believes that Ulysses can see the future to stop crime before it happens, and she believes that it's a good thing, even though she doesn't know exactly how it works. On the other side, Tony believes that Ulysses is just processing an algorithm determining probability curves and risk levels. The only thing that Sam sees coming from Ulysses is profiling. So he wants to make it clear to everyone on video what his standpoint on the whole thing is. But during his recording, Joaquin tells him that he might want to see this. Sam tries to tell him that he's in the middle of something, and then Misty says, "No, Joaquin was right, you need to see this." With a loud sigh, he looks back at the camera and tells everyone, "You know what his position on profiling the future is?" No. He walks into the next room asking, "What's so and then he sees the news with another hero known as Rage on the screen. Rage was a 13-year-old kid who fell into some toxic sludge that turned him into an 8-foot-tall, super strong, super fast Goliath of a man. And with what's been going on with the Americops, his name explains his views. Out on the streets, the Americops stop a group of people and tell them that they are in violation of the city's ordinances in regards to loitering. The men ask how can they be loitering when they live here. One of the men then tries to push back, but one of the cops slams the man back, telling him that he's under arrest. Soon the crowd of people surrounding them begins to throw rocks and bricks, telling the AmeriCops to get out of their neighborhood. And among that group is Rage. The AmeriCops tell everyone that if they have an issue with anything, they need to file a complaint with the review board. Rage tells them that maybe he will, but first, he needs their badge number. He rips the badge number off of the officer and a fight breaks out. As Sam watches, he says that he needs to put a stop to this. Elsewhere, at a classified location, U.S. Agent John Walker leads a strike team to a known terrorist hideout. John charges in, knocking a group of men over, and as bullets fly, he runs through, beating the men up with his shield. One of the other soldiers reports that they got a call for him from Senate, and with one last bash of his shield, he tells the soldier to inform them that he's currently busy. Back over with Sam, him and Joaquin arrive to break the fight up between Rage and the AmeriCops, but as he lands, one of the officers tells Sam that this is an AmeriCops investigation. His assistance is neither requested nor required. Sam tells him that he hears them, but he would like to assist all the same. He then tells him that he would like to try and talk this whole thing out, and that's when one of the officers grabs a hold of his wrist, telling him that this is a formal warning. Sam struggles to pull his arm back, and he says, "Now this is what you don't want to do." Meanwhile, over in Lower Manhattan, John follows up on the call that he's received, and it was from none other than Paul Keene. Paul walks John down to his office, praising him on his latest work, and as the two of them enter, John is greeted by Senator Tom Harold and Harry Hauser. The three men continue to tell John what a terrific guy he is, but John stops them, stating that he's going to stop them all right there. All he wants to know is why the hell is he here? An image pops up on the screen next to him, and Paul says because of this man. They would like John Walker to take the shield back. And that's when we see that they are trying to stage something against Sam Wilson. Back over in the park, Sam tries to play out what the headlines would report if he was to do something. It would either state that Captain America attacks the cops, or Captain America was beaten by the cops. But before he can make a decision, Rage tells him don't worry, and he punches the cop. Sam turns around and asks, "What did you do that for? There are other ways to handle things, we can talk it out." And all of the cops begin to walk towards them, and Rage tells them they look like they want to talk. The officers all begin to try and take Sam and Rage down, but up over on a nearby building, Joaquin sits checking his Snapchat when Sam radios in that he needs an evac. Joaquin asks if his wings are broken, and Sam tells him it's not for him. So Joaquin leaps off the building, and in a quick swoop, he flies in, grabbing Rage. After a short flight, Joaquin drops Rage onto a nearby cell tower. However, after Rage is taken away, the officers then throw an energy net to contain Sam. They begin kicking and beating Sam, and he thinks to himself how he might just want to accept the loss, and then he remembers he has friends out there. Lots of them. Pigeons start to fly down, building up a nest to protect Sam as he gets the net off. And once he's finally free, he jets up into the sky. That is, until the shield is thrown, knocking him out of the sky. Still a bit delirious from the fall, Sam reaches out for his shield, but before he can grab it, a voice tells him, "Leave it." John Walker steps onto the shield and tells him, "That shield doesn't belong to you anymore." Sam looks up and John goes on, stating, "I'm just trying to help you out before it's too late. You need to turn that shield over now." Sam stands up shouting, "Did you not see what went on over there?" And John tells him, "Oh, I saw you attacking people who swore that they'd protect this neighborhood. I know what it's like to have the pressure of the job. The whole thing of Captain America. I've been there too." Furious, Sam tells him, "We are not alike. You don't see me murdering people like you did." John leaps forward, pinning Sam down onto the hood of a car. Sam tries to break free, but John just grabs him by the legs and throws him to the side. He continues beating on Sam, kicking him out from a store and punching him over and over again. As blood begins to fill up his lenses, Sam thinks that he may have an idea, and he wraps John's arm up in wire. He then takes off into the sky, and he heads for an old train tunnel. John begins to shout, "What the hell's the point of this?" Flies both into a place where we can't see, and Sam tells him, "Correction, you can't see," and he flings John into a pile of metal. Sam then takes the fight to John, bashing him with the shield and knocking him down. Once John stops moving, Sam drags John back out into the streets. He begins to cough, spitting up blood, asking, "Do you think you're so much better than me?" And Sam tells him, "No. The man who was originally Captain America, even after getting his health back, told me to hang on to the shield, and I trust his opinion over yours." John just stares back and tells him, "Guys like you think you know everything, huh? Well, you never know as much as you think." After that fight, Sam takes off and heads to the hospital, one where Tony Stark tells Claire everything will be fine, it's just a tiny implant. Sam decided that it was time to accept Tony's implants that would allow data to be transmitted from his brain to processing into images and video. He asks if there are safeguards, and Tony tells him that there are, unless what Carol is doing. Sam just sighs and lays down on the operating table and tells him, "Just get on with it." A short while later, Sam sits in front of a camera again, giving an announcement. He informs everyone that he isn't happy with how the situation with the AmeriCops and US agent went, but he cannot ignore the messages of the AmeriCops profiling and using excessive violence. That is why, from now on, he will be monitoring the AmeriCops 24/7, and if he sees anything that confirms those accusations, he will do something about it. But as Sam walks away holding a bottle, he can't help but feel like he's still in the dark, and he remembers John's words, "You never know as much as you think you do." And on that note, he's probably right, Sam says to himself. However, earlier in Paul's office, after the suggestion of getting back Sam's shield, John tells everyone that he doesn't like this. This isn't his fight. What they need is the man who this belongs to, Steve Rogers. A voice tells him, "I wish it was that easy." And Steve walks in out of the shadows. Steve tells him, "I'm sorry for all of the smoke and mirrors, but this situation is sensitive. Even though I don't disagree with everything Sam is doing, he's doing it the wrong way." John asks him, "Why don't you just ask for the shield back then?" Steve says, "I hate to say this, but we both know what a white Captain America telling a black Captain America to stop being Captain America. The country just can't handle that kind of division." John tells him, "Stop right there. As far as I'm convinced, there's only one Captain America, and it's you." He extends his arm out, and Steve tells him, "Sam is still a good friend and a good man. He just lost his way. It would kill him if he knew what I was asking." As the two of them shake, John says that it's not a problem. The mission stays confidential, just between soldiers. After a run-in with some Voltarians, Peter tells Ulysses, the Inhuman who has the ability to foretell the future, which is the entire premise behind the Civil War II event, that it's okay to come out. As he does, Peter asks if he's learned anything, and Ulysses tells him, yeah, Spider-Man's job sucks. While fixing his suit, Spider-Man says that he's sorry that he got a bit sidetracked from their target. Spider-Sense went off, and Ulysses tells him to hold up. Spider-Man can predict the future as well. Spider-Man tells him no, his Spider-Sense is more immediate, like within seconds, nothing like Ulysses' abilities to see the future days to months in advance. As the two of them go on, Ulysses looks down at a man on the street and says that that's him. He's going to murder 2 people. Spider-Man grabs a hold of Ulysses and swings off, stating that they're just going to have to follow the man to stop him before he does that. And Ulysses tells him that the more that they swing around like this, the more terrifying it gets. A short while later, that man kicks in the door to an apartment and tells the couple inside to get down. And then Spider-Man jumps in, kicking, telling him that he should first. He then webs up the man, and the woman says that it's her ex. If they hadn't shown up when they did, well, it's a miracle that they showed up in time. Spider-Man looks at Ulysses and tells him, it kinda was, wasn't it? The two head back to Parker Industries, and Peter says that it was a good first night of meeting each other. You can tell that Ulysses' heart is in the right place. As the two of them take the elevator down, Spider-Man says that if he's not busy, he would like Ulysses to come to work with him in the morning. Ulysses tells him that he would love to, but will he get to meet Peter Parker? He's a huge fan. And Spider-Man tells him that, Peter Parker is traveling. I just wanted to show you a way of helping people that you may never have thought of. The next morning, Spider-Man and Ulysses stand over the Parker Industries factory, and Spider-Man says that he was thinking that with Ulysses' help, he could save money and man-hours by not running down dead ends. If they focus their attention on projects that are in the medical and security fields, they could save hundreds of lives. Ulysses says that he's never actually thought about it like that, but would this place seriously hire him? Spider-Man tells him that it's not up to him, but they're about to meet the person who can make that decision, and for now, they should keep the whole Inhuman thing on the down low. As they walk into the office, Harry Osborn stands there welcoming him, and Spider-Man says that this is Lyman. Spider-Man then tells Harry that this is Ulysses, and he's a candidate for their internship. Harry says that he's pleased to meet him, and then he begins to ask what he's majoring in school. Before Ulysses can give him an answer, Spider-Man pulls him away, stating that they have other important people to meet instead of talking about this. Spider-Man then introduces Ulysses to Clayton Cole, an expert on Sonics, who isn't a lunatic supervillain. Clayton extends his arm for a handshake, stating, anymore. But, hi. Clayton then begins showing Ulysses their designs for a new model flying car, and Harry pulls Spider-Man aside and says that he seems like a good kid. But as the two of them talk, Peter notices Ulysses having another vision. He asks if everything is okay, and Ulysses tells him, yeah, he just remembered something. Spider-Man then says, yeah, the teleconference with Peter Parker. I guess we have to go. Clayton tells Ulysses that it was nice meeting him, and Ulysses waves, stating that it was nice to meet him as well. But once the two of them are alone, Spider-Man asks Ulysses if he had another vision, and Ulysses tells him, yeah, it kind of involves him. Keep in mind, not everything I predict comes true, but that guy we just met, he's gonna put on a costume and fight you. Spider-Man begins to think that it must be Harry, because he's been working so hard, but Ulysses stops him and tells him no, the other guy. Clayton? Ulysses then asks if he can think of any reason why Clayton Cole would do that. Later that day, Spider-Man swings around a giant robot controlled by 5 men, asking, who's the genius who thought it would be a good idea to build a Quintronic man? One of the men shouts that there is no way that he could have found them, and another begins to spray poison gas. But Spider-Man tells them that he already has air filters in his mask. He's gonna take a gamble and guess that whoever built this thing is smart enough to save his own life. The man shouts that he's not scared of him. He knows Spider-Man doesn't kill people, but Spider-Man tells him, it's not me. Check your thermocouple readings. The man checks and says the core is overheating. They need to get out. So he pops open the cockpit and tells the man to drive it into the river. He then swings, grabbing everyone out of their pods. One of the men says that the river cooled the robot if the core had exploded. But Spider-Man stops him, telling him, it would have taken out the whole block. And by the way, you're all going to jail in case you were wondering. A little while later, back at Parker Industries, Ulysses asks Spider-Man what is he going to do about him fighting Clayton. Spider-Man tells him that he's still trying to figure that out, but he hasn't done anything yet, because he's worried that talking to Clayton is what is going to set off the event. Ulysses tells him that he's sorry he couldn't have seen anything other than the two of them fighting, and Peter thinks back to when he fought Clayton when he was going by the name of Clash. Back then, Clayton was just a thrill-seeking kid who messed up his own life. Spider-Man says that you never really know someone until you walk a mile in their shoes, and a few hours later, Clayton and a few of the other scientists notice that Spider-Man is walking with that Ulysses kid again. However, Clayton thinks back on it and he thought that Ulysses was acting kind of strange. As the morning went on, he found Spider-Man and Ulysses watching him from time to time. And an hour later, Spider-Man entered Clayton's office as Peter Parker, telling him that he stopped by to make sure that everything was going okay. Clayton tells him that he thought he was in Shanghai, and Peter says that he just flew in. So Clayton tells him that everything's been going great actually, the projects are coming along with no issue. Peter tells him that that's good, he just wanted to let him know that if he ever needed someone to talk to, his door is always open, literally and digitally. But as Peter leaves, Clayton begins to wonder how Ulysses had a teleconference with Peter if he was just on a plane. A little while later, Clayton sneaks over to Peter's office to use his retroactive recorder, a device that can allow someone to pick up on sound waves from a past conversation. As he holds out the device, he begins to hear Ulysses telling Spider-Man about a vision that he had where Clayton and Spider-Man were fighting. Seconds later, Peter in his suit walks in asking, "What are you doing with that device over there?" And Clayton shouts, "What, you gonna take the word of some punk who thinks I'm gonna go bad?" Peter tells him that it's not that simple, the kid has powers. But Clayton tells him, "I don't care, in fact, I quit." And he storms out. Later that night at the local henchman bar, Clayton sits for a drink when a man sits down next to him. The man introduces himself as Mendel Strum, and Clayton says that he knows who he is. He was Norman Osborn's old partner, Robot Master. Strum says that that's right, and the way he sees it, they both have mutual interests regarding Parker Industries. Clayton tells him that, sure, but he also knows that Strum is a man who holds on to old grudges, and he let it ruin his life, and he's not about to go that route. Strum asks if he's sure, because he knows that he has debts to the Tinkerer, a man who supplies equipment to criminals, and he also knows that what he's getting from him is way more expensive than he can afford. Strum begins to walk off, stating that he has much to gain and little to lose, so give him a call when he's ready. Later that night, Clayton looks at himself as he's shaving off his beard and he thinks about how he's gotten pretty old now. As he looks at a picture of him when he was younger, taking first place in the science fair and beating Peter Parker, he grabs a phone. He tells the Tinkerer that he wants him to make a rush on the recent order that he's placed. And the next morning, Clayton gets his package, and he gives Strum a call, telling him that they should meet up. Clash is back in town. Across the town, Clayton enters Strum's apartment, telling him that he's had some time to think about what they talked about. He's tired of people exploding him, and now he's ready to look out for himself. Strum says that he's pleased to see that he has seen the light. He then leans up examining Clayton's suit, telling him that he can see why he's paying the Tinkerer so much to upgrade his tech. However, they won't need a costume to take down Parker Industries. All he's going to need is Clayton's access codes. They're going to get rich without anyone even knowing that it was them, and they can point the blame to someone else. Maybe even Parker himself. Everyone loves to see a CEO go to prison. He then asks Clayton, "What do you want to do?" Clayton says that what he really wants to do is take him down, and he fires a sonic blast, knocking Strum away. He says that he knows the frequencies that would fry the robot's operating systems, and Strum said sure, if he hadn't already upgraded them to be protected against sonic attacks. Strum blasts Clayton out of the building, telling him that they both could have been rich. Though he doesn't mind the noise, he does appreciate him bringing the new tech to him. The robots begin to swarm around Clayton, and he shouts a sonic scream that blows everything away. He then jumps away, allowing his suit to recharge after that blast, but before he can get away, the robots grab onto his leg. Strum flies over, grabbing Clayton, telling him that he isn't bad, but too bad he isn't good enough. He then starts crushing Clayton's head, but before he can, Spider-Man swings in, kicking him off. Spider-Man tells Strum that he thought old people were supposed to be bad with technology, and then he begins to struggle with them as he looks back at the robot holding onto Clayton, and he asks, when did robots get blobby? Clayton manages to break free from the robot's hold, and he starts blasting away the other robots while Peter deals with Strum. As they struggle, Strum fires a laser at Peter, but the laser bounces off and Peter webs the eyes up and he rips it out. After being kicked away, Strum tells Peter that it looks like his suit has been upgraded since the last time they met. Well, he too has been doing some upgrades. Soon, all of the smaller robots begin jumping into formation, constructing themselves into a giant robot. Spider-Man looks at it and he tells himself, giant robots. It always is giant robots. Clayton tells Spider-Man to go after Strum. Trust him, he's got this. Spider-Man looks at him and figures why not, and he chases after Strum as he escapes. The giant robot grabs Clayton, and knowing that sonic attacks won't affect it, he changes the blast so that it vibrates. The robot's arms begin to shake, and the robot falls to pieces. And seconds later, Strum's web-covered body lands on the ground, and Clayton takes off his helmet, telling Spider-Man that he told him he could be trusted. Now Peter Parker will see that he can as well. But Spider-Man tells him, actually, this isn't a good thing. You used Clash Tech again. The one thing you aren't supposed to be doing because of your parole. Clayton tries to tell him that he was only protecting Parker Industries, but Spider-Man tells him that he could have stopped him without the millions of dollars in property damage or putting people in danger. Spider-Man then asks, why didn't you just call me? And Clayton tells him that he wanted to prove that he was on the right side of this. As he looks around, Clayton asks if he's fired. Spider-Man tells him no, but he's gonna have to turn over all of his sonic tech, including the suit, and never make anything again. Clayton stops him, telling him that the sonics are his thing. He's way better at them than anyone else. Spider-Man tells him that no one is trying to take that away from him, but from now on when he designs things, he's going to have to turn them over to the R&D team. It's the only way that this can work. Clayton thinks about it for a moment, and then he says, no, there's another way. And he begins to blast Spider-Man to the ground. He puts back on his mask, stating that if they want to treat him like a bad guy, then he's gonna be a bad guy. Spider-Man takes out a small device and he says that he remembers the last time that they fought, and he developed an anti-sonic inverter to counter the frequencies. Clayton blasts it away, telling him that he's improved his tech from the last time. And Spider-Man says, well, that's not good. He then begins to try and get away from the civilians, but as he begins to run, Clayton tells him that it's not the noise that's going to stop him, it's the vibrations. First striking at his eyes, distorting his vision, making him feel sick and unbalanced. He then focuses the vibrations on a nearby building, causing it to fall on top of Spider-Man. Peter crawls out from the rubble, stating that he knows he can do more than just that. He could shatter every bone in Spider-Man's body if he wanted. And Clayton stops, telling him, that's not. But Spider-Man tells him, I know, it's not you. Clash isn't who you are anymore. But right now you have a choice to stop this. Clayton says that that Ulysses' kid said it, which means none of them really have a choice. The future is already set for them. Spider-Man hops onto a lamppost, stating, that's wrong. Ulysses' vision doesn't define us. Ultimately, we have the choice. And as Spider-Man goes on, both him and Clayton are blasted by Strum, telling them to just shut up. The robots begin to get back up, and Peter calls out to Clayton, stating that they need to work together to finish this. As the robots pin Spider-Man down, Clayton tells him that he's right. The future is in their hands, and right now he's on his own. And so is he. Clayton flies off as Strum begins laughing as he charges in for his next attack. And Spider-Man uses all of the strength that he has to pull the robots up, slamming them into Strum and knocking him down. As Strum's body hits the ground, Peter jumps on top of him, ripping his limbs off. Strum tries to tell his robots to help, but Spider-Man continues ripping him apart. And then Spider-Man tells him that he was actually just looking for one part, and that was Strum's remote. He grabs down into Strum's chest and he rips the remote out, telling him that he just did him a favor. All of these newfangled ones, they're really just confusing. Later at Parker Industries, Harry says there hasn't been any word on Clayton since the fight, and Peter Parker tells him to just go ahead and keep trying. He hasn't done anything that they can't fix yet. Harry nervously tells him all right, and he walks off looking at Ulysses. Ulysses says that he knows, then he makes him nervous knowing what he can do. Peter tells him not to take it personally. Harry has a bit of a checkered past as well. He goes on stating that he's given it some thought as well, and actually, he would rather not use Ulysses to further his research. Really, it would be an unfair advantage. That, and if they eliminate mistakes, they would be eliminating progress, since mistakes are how you learn from science. Ulysses asks if he should even use his powers then, and Peter says of course he should. Thanks to those visions, many lives have already been saved. But that's where you should be focusing that. You've got to try and save the people while you have the chance, because if you don't, it'll haunt you forever. A little while later, the Royal Inhuman family returns to bring Ulysses back, and Peter Parker heads over to the Triskelon to give his report. He tells Carol that Ulysses could be the best thing that they have in their fight against villains and crime and evil, but they need to watch him and make sure that those situations are handled properly. Also, Peter Parker will support them in any way that he can. Carol says that she appreciates it, and she also needs to make sure that she can count on Spider-Man, because a fair amount of people are thinking that Ulysses is wrong. Really, what she means to ask is, can she count on him to fight for this? Spider-Man extends his arm and shakes her hand, telling her, yeah, you can. I know what it costs if we don't. And as the two of them leave, Spider-Man tells Carol that he's going to be her Jiminy Cricket. So if he sees her doing anything wrong and how she's handling this, he's gonna be super annoying. And she tells him that she'll try and notice the difference. As Spider-Man hangs on to Carol as they fly away, he asks if they got this. And Carol tells him, yeah, they got this.
And there you have it, Civil War II. The story that made me kinda hate Captain Marvel, if I'm being honest. But what did you guys think? Who do you think was right? Let me know in the comments down below. Like, subscribe, and we will see you next time. Rest in peace, Benny.